This is Audible.
Desperately Delicate Viper, Mafia-bound Book 4. Written by K.M. Neuhold. Performed by Nick J. Russo and Declan Winters.
Chapter 1. Luca. There are two sides to any city. There are the blocks lined with expensive chain restaurants and shops, skyscrapers housing generic businesses, and busloads of tourists snapping pictures of shit they'll never bother to look at again. And then there are streets like this one. There's an air of confidence and purpose in my stride that's completely at odds with my surroundings. The brick buildings on either side of the street have all been tagged with graffiti, from simple gang signs to elaborate artwork. Not that you'd know it in the dark like this, with half the street lamps burned out and the other half dull or flickering. The apartment buildings all have their curtains drawn tight, and all the businesses have bars over the windows. I twist my lips into a wry smile at the way the neon sign up ahead illuminates the dark, foggy night that's been closing in around me for blocks now. Being on the lowest rung of the Moretti crime family has its advantages. The main one being that I can go out without most people recognizing me and pissing their pants the way they do when they see Zaviaro or Elio or, God forbid, Lorenzo. Criminals and lowlives in Wildcliff might call Zaviaro the Iceman or the Grim Reaper behind his back, and sometimes to his face, but that's nothing compared to their fear of the rarely seen boss of the Moretti Mafia himself. I shake off thoughts of my extended family and the extremely lucrative profession of keeping one hand around the throat of every criminal and business in Wildcliff. I'm close enough now that I can feel the thump of the bass coming from inside the club. The smell of weed, cigarette smoke, and cheap cologne hangs heavy in the air as I stride past the line of people queuing to get inside. Most of the women barely dressed, while the men have donned their most impressive clearance rack suits, hoping to convince someone that they're rich and sophisticated, if only for an hour or so. I pull my hands out of my pockets, my mouth already watering for a drink and my dick perking up at the promise of a debauched night waiting right on the other side of the thick double doors. The word Wonderland is written in script and humming like a beacon in the night, calling all would-be sinners like a siren tempting sailors out to sea. The colorful neon of the sign casts an eerie glow over the bouncer, giving his stark white hair an unnatural rainbow of two bright hues. He's a beast of a man, towering over me by at least a head and twice as wide. He's in a leather vest and a pair of holy jeans, tattoos covering his skin in a tapestry of images that range from classic pin-up poses featuring grinning twinks to a white rabbit taking up the majority of his right bicep. A slow grin spreads over his face, and he looks me up and down with a predatory glint in his eyes. I arch an eyebrow in amusement and give him a subtle shake of my head. We've been through this before. He's not my type, even if he does have quite the reputation for making even sane men crazy by the time he's finished with them. "All right, Luca," he says in a gruff voice, ignoring the grumbling coming from the line I just skipped to the head of. "I will be once I have a couple of drinks in me and a pretty little twink in my lap." "You and me both, man." He chuckles, his laughter filled with just as much gravel as his voice, and tilts his head towards the door, gesturing for me to go ahead inside. "Have a good night." "You too, Rabbit." I clap him on the shoulder and skirt past him. Whatever small taste of hedonism has seeped out onto the sidewalk beyond the doors is nothing compared to stepping inside Wonderland. If the second circle of hell is where all the lustful sinners go, then Wonderland is what happens when the doors are flung open and the damned are returned to earth. My cock swells as I make my way through the writhing sea of bodies, sparing lingering glances for a couple of men and women who catch my eye, but aren't enough to stop me in my tracks. There are several cages on elevated platforms around the open dance floor, and strobe lights illuminating the massive bodies in the middle of it all, moving to the beat of the music as one when they're not caught up in hungry mouths and wandering hands. There's an itch under my skin tonight, and I know exactly what I need to scratch it. The question is, will I find what I'm looking for here? Only time will tell. I reach the bar just in time to snag an empty stool. I slide onto it, unbuttoning my cuffs and the collar of my shirt to get a little more comfortable while I wait for a bartender to notice me. There are 3 of them hurrying back and forth, making drinks and pausing to shoot flirty comments and winks at customers as they work their way from one to the next under the eerie, colorful lights that have a way of making this whole club feel like a drug haze or a fever dream. The biggest of the 3 bartenders stops in front of me, bracing his hands on the bar. There's a rolled joint dangling from between his lips, and he inhales as he studies me for half a second, exhaling a cloud of skunky smoke through his nose. It lingers in the air momentarily, hanging like a ring around his head, illuminated by the green light behind him. He arches one of his thick caterpillar eyebrows. "The queen has already left for the night," he grunts. "If you're here to collect, you're going to have to swing back in the morning." "I'm just here for a drink," I answer smoothly without raising my voice over the din of the club. He seems to hear me just fine, though, the cherry on his joint glowing brighter orange with his next inhale before he nods. "Whiskey," I respond to the implied question in his silence. While he turns to busy himself pouring my drink, I glance up and down the length of the bar top. It's mostly lined with people who are ignoring the chaos around them in favor of staring into their own drinks. A man down at the end manages to catch my interest, though. He's surrounded by a few other men, all dressed in nice suits, eyeing him like he's their favorite dessert. He's petite, with dark hair and blue eyes, everything about him reading as sweet and innocent. But there's something about the way he holds himself that tells a different story. Maybe it's the sharpness in his gaze, like he's seconds away from showing the lions huddled around him that he's the real predator. He's like a viper, coiled and poised to strike. The song that's playing changes from an electronic dance mix to something with more sultry overtones. The pretty little viper shoos 2 men off the stools on either side of him and hoists himself onto the bar, plopping his ass on the sticky wood and planting his feet on the stools. Heat prickles under my skin and my cock thickens against my thigh. I can read the suggestive words of the song on his lips as he sings along and puts on a little show, whipping his head around and swaying his body to the mesmerizing beat of the music. He toys with the men, grabbing one by the tie and dragging him close, bringing their lips a hair's breadth apart before giving a wicked smile and shoving him back. The lights dance over his skin as he throws his head back and runs his hands between his own legs, making his gaggle of horny admirers hold their breath. Mine catches in my throat, too. The sound of a glass being set down hard manages to jerk my attention away from the little show for just a few seconds. I glance back at Caterpillar and pick up my whiskey to take a sip, savoring the burn of it on my tongue and all the way down my throat. I look back at the pretty viper and tilt my head towards him. "You know him?" I ask, licking my lips and dragging my gaze over the length of the bare leg the pretty twink has thrust out, planting his foot in the middle of one particularly grabby man's chest to push him back with a smirk and a shake of his head. "No more than anyone else," Caterpillar answers unhelpfully. I chuckle and take another sip of my drink. The grabby man says something, and the twink holds his hands up, rubbing his thumb and 2 forefingers together in an unmistakable gesture. My pulse spikes again and I grin against the rim of my glass before downing the remainder of it. If money is all it takes to get his attention for tonight, I'll happily drain my bank account. I set my empty glass down and reach into my pocket to pull a few bills out of my wallet, tossing them onto the bar. The song changes again and the viper's little show ends, but he doesn't slide off the bar. If Caterpillar or any of the other bartenders mind him taking up space while he trolls for clients, they don't show it. Maybe it's good for business. Or maybe, after years of working at Wonderland, they've learned to look the other way and let people do whatever the hell they want as long as it doesn't end in bloodshed or a visit from my family. The teasing smile on his plump pink lips slips when his gaze lands on me. His icy blue eyes track my path around the bar towards him, full of curious assessment and something much hotter. It's possible the latter is wishful thinking, but I'm arrogant enough to know I'm better looking than most of the men in this club tonight. I'll happily pay his regular price, but if he likes what he sees, all the better. I don't pause until I reach him, shouldering through his little mob of panting fans and stopping right in front of him. He was stunning from feet away, but up close I can hardly blame the idiots who are seconds away from dropping to their knees to lick his shoes and pay him for the privilege of it. Hell, I might just join them. His dark hair has a purposefully messy style, and paired with his sharp cheekbones and round eyes, it makes him look like he belongs on a high-fashion runway rather than selling his ass in a place like Wonderland. He spreads his legs a little wider, both his feet still planted on the stools in front of him, his seat on the bar top putting him eye to eye with me. "Hey there, handsome." He tilts his head, his eyes wandering from top to bottom, no doubt calculating the price of my suit and the Rolex on my wrist. I step closer until I'm practically between his legs, sliding my hands into my pockets to keep myself from running them over his smooth thighs or teasing the outline of his stiff nipples through his tight white tank top. I lean in, telling myself it's so he'll be able to hear me over the music, but if I'm being honest with myself, I just want the excuse to feel the warmth radiating off of his skin and breathe in the scent of sugar that's clinging to him. "You have a name, beautiful?" I ask, the rest of the club fading away around me as I get caught up in the snare of his attention. He slides forward so his ass is perched on the very edge of the bar, bringing his lips to my ear. The hot rush of his breath down my neck makes my balls tighten and my cock ache. "Anders," he says, the purr of his voice just as mesmerizing as every other part of him. "I'm not cheap." He touches the tip of his finger to the inside of my wrist, right above the gold band of my watch, then drags it slowly up my forearm. Goosebumps pebble in the wake of his touch. "But something tells me you're a man who appreciates high-end things anyway. Am I right?" "How much?" I've already decided that there isn't a number he could say that would make me turn around and walk away. I'm going to have Anders tonight, whatever it costs. 1,000, plus the cost of the hotel room. Cash App payment only. I frown momentarily, not at the amount, but at the request for payment through a Cash App. But I'm not about to give him business advice if that's how he prefers to handle things. "Done," I answer without hesitation. The smile on Anders's lips tugs a few inches wider, and he moves his hand from my arm to my chest, playfully toying with the buttons on my shirt as he runs his nose along the stubbled edge of my jaw, bringing his lips within half an inch of mine. "Perfect. Let's have some fun."
Chapter 2. Anders. At some point, men all started to look the same to me. It didn't matter if they were blonde or brunette, short or tall, thick or rippling with muscles. They all looked at me with identical stares of detached hunger, like ravenous beasts salivating for a meal. I wasn't a man they felt passion and desire for. I was a lamb, and they were wolves. At least, that's how they see it. I grew numb to it years ago. I wrapped cynicism around myself like a cloak and learned to look back at them with the same kind of detachment, to see them as nothing but a paycheck. They can't use me or hurt me because I'm the one using them. They might put their hands on my body, but they can never touch me. The man standing in front of me, his slacks and white button-up both clearly tailored rather than the off-the-rack trash worn by everyone else in the club, might be well-dressed, but he's no different from anyone else. For half a second, when our eyes first met, I thought I saw something there. Interest that went beyond lust for my body. But silly fantasies like that are better left for when I'm alone in my bed at night, dreaming of a different life. Only a few more weeks. 20 days, to be exact, and then I'll be free. The fucker won't have anything left to hold over my head, and I'll be able to walk away and never look back. I eye the gold Rolex on my date's wrist again, guilt and desperation warring in my chest. He looks up from his phone, turning the screen around to show me the confirmation that his payment went through. The username along the top says Luca M. I lick my lips and force all thoughts about the future and what it would feel like to be seen by someone into a familiar box in the back of my mind, locking them up tight. "Thanks, Luca," I purr. "Or do you prefer I call you something else? Sir, maybe? Daddy?" I've had years of practice hiding the way bile rises in my throat at the latter suggestion. He drags the soft pad of his thumb along the edge of my jaw so lightly that it sends a shiver down my spine. "Luca is fine," he says. "Although we might have to talk about what I can call you, because Anders just doesn't do you justice." I shrug, putting my hands on the smooth, sticky surface of the bar top, preparing to hop down. "Call me whatever you want. It's your dime." A curious expression flickers over his face, but he doesn't say anything. His hands land on my hips, and I open my mouth to tell him that he needs to take me to a hotel room before he gets handsy with me, but to my surprise, he doesn't go in for a kiss. He doesn't slide his hands down to grope my ass. He doesn't press himself up against me and make a lewd comment about the hardness of his cock. No, Luca M., with the multi-$1,000 watch and tailored suit, helps me off the bar, keeping his hands on me just long enough to ensure that I'm steady on my feet before he lets me go and slides them back into his pockets. I let out a surprised laugh and then stooped down to pick up my tattered messenger bag, looping it around my neck and tilting my chin in the direction of the exit. Lead the way. I brace myself for him to wrap his hand possessively around the back of my neck, digging his fingers in just a little too roughly, testing the limits of my self-control as I fight off the urge to elbow him in the ribs and put a little space between us. It's always a prelude to a night of fucking that goes exactly the same way. Too rough, too bruising, numbing all the parts of me that want to bite back. But Luca doesn't grab me. At least, not like that. He rests his hand against the small of my back, using just enough pressure to let me know he's there and not about to lose me in the crowd as he leads me through the sea of people churning all around us to the hypnotic beat of the music. His touch is warm, possessive without being aggressive, and exactly the way I used to dream that a man would touch me back when I was naive enough to dream. My ears ring with the sudden silence as we step out onto the street, the doors swinging closed behind us to lock the humidity of body heat and the thump of the bass away where they belong. The bouncer, Rabbit, nods to me as we pass, arching one eyebrow the way he always does when I leave with a client. When I first started coming here, I thought he was judging me, but now, as crazy as it seems, I think he's checking that I'm okay leaving with whoever I'm with. What would he do if I wasn't? The thought is fucking laughable. Not a big beefcake bouncer coming to my rescue, although that's funny in its own way, but the idea that my opinion of any of the men I leave with matters even a little bit. I give Rabbit a flickering smile of reassurance and let Luca lead me down the street away from the club. As the neon glow of the sign fades behind us, I glance over at him in the darkness. He's an objectively attractive man, with a classic Roman nose and full, soft-looking lips. I've always been a sucker for dark eyes and olive skin, too. It's been fucking ages since I've bothered to give any consideration to my own preferences, but if it mattered at all, Luca is exactly the kind of man who would catch my eye all on his own. At least, I think he is. "Where are we going?" I ask when we reach the end of the block. "Would you object to a short drive? I know there are a couple of motels within walking distance, but I'm not sure my tetanus shots are up to date." His lips twitch at his own joke. I don't bother to answer, assuming it's a rhetorical question. He paid, so if he wants me to get in his car, then it's not worth arguing about it, especially not out here in the dark, in the part of town where no one would bat an eye if he were to get violent with me for refusing him. My heart beats faster at the thought, and my jaw ticks with a flicker of the defiance in my soul that the numbness hasn't managed to snuff out yet. "Anders?" He says my name softly. "What? Is a short drive okay?" He repeats. I frown, opening and closing my mouth a couple of times in surprise before giving a sharp nod. "Yeah, that's fine." A slow smile spreads over his lips. Even more shocking than the fact that he was actually asking my permission for something is the fact that the smile is strangely sweet. Fucking hell, 20 days might not be soon enough if I'm starting to lose my grip on reality like this. The crosswalk light changes, and I follow Luca across the street. I want to ask why he parked so far away from Wonderland, but most men who pick me up aren't really that big on small talk, so I bite my tongue and enjoy the stroll. At least it's a nice night. The distinct smell of spring dancing on the air just under the sense of exhaust and garbage that are present no matter what part of the city you're in. Between one block and the next, cracked sidewalks are replaced with even ones, brick buildings covered in graffiti turning into sleek high-rises with large windows that peer into expensive lobbies. Luca slows to a stop, and the lights flash on a sleek silver BMW parked near the curb. I bite my lip, and that same mix of desperation and guilt tugs at my insides again. Wherever Luca got his money, it's obvious he has plenty of it. No one thinks Robin Hood is the villain of the story for robbing from the rich to give to the poor, so why should I be? Just because I'm the poor, does that make it any less of a worthy cause? He strides over and opens the passenger door for me. I slip inside and set my bag between my feet on the floor.
Luca. Anders gives me a flicker of a polite smile as I close the car door, and discontent squirms in my chest. What do I have to do to see that spark of defiance in his eyes again? How can I bring back the glint of almost disdainful confidence that drew me to him like a moth to a flame at Wonderland? He's breathtakingly beautiful either way, but sweet and polite aren't what I'm looking for. Put on whatever you like, I say, nodding towards the XM radio display that lights up as soon as I start the car. I don't really care, Anders shrugs, his voice sounding hollow as he settles back in his seat, his face turned toward the passenger window. My fingers twitch around the smooth leather of the steering wheel, and my jaw ticks with irritation. After a minute, when I haven't pulled out of the parking spot, he turns his attention back to me with a curious frown marring his full pouty lips. I've changed my mind. I bite out the words, not sure if I'm coming across as more of a dickhead or a petulant child, and not caring much either way. Anders isn't what I thought he was. Maybe it was a trick of the lights at Wonderland or a desperate fantasy I projected onto him in the few seconds it took me to decide I wanted him. What? His eyebrows pull together. You changed your mind. I nod sharply. Keep the money. I wave a hand dismissively, pressing the button to make sure his door is unlocked. Anders doesn't move. For a few seconds, I don't think he even breathes, and then it's back. That fire in his eyes, the mutinous set of his jaw, venom dripping from every inch of his gaze. My cock jerks to attention all over again, and the heat under my skin rekindles. Fuck you. I'm not some fucking charity case, he spits, every bit the coiled viper I first pegged him for. What, are you just now realizing you're too good for trash like me? Now that you've seen me contrasted against the pretentious backdrop of your overpriced car, you can't bring yourself to stoop as low as fucking me? He twists in his seat to face me, leaning over the center console to poke me in the chest. You don't even know me. Maybe I'm the one who's too damn good for you. A pretty face and an expensive watch don't make you better than me, Luca, and fuck you for thinking they do. His chest heaves as he rants, and my heart thunders with excitement. There it is, I murmur, lunging for him. I grab a fistful of his tank top and yank him towards me, smashing my lips to his. His tirade dies on a gasp against my mouth, but that doesn't mean his anger is gone. His lips soften just long enough for me to slip my tongue between them. And then he's all fury and bite, nipping roughly at my tongue and controlling the kiss, setting a brutal, punishing pace. My cock throbs, and I happily give myself over to his rage, letting it batter me like a hurricane. Our tongues tangle, and my lips sting with every beautifully placed bite. The little jolts of not-quite pain stroke my cock one by one until I'm trembling under his touch and leaking a steady stream of pre-cum down my own thigh. Anders breaks the kiss with a forceful shove to my chest. His eyes are wild, and his lips are damp and swollen. I groan and reach down to adjust myself. Fucked up head games get you hard, Luca? He asks with a hoarse edge to his voice, settling himself back into his seat with a hint of uncertainty shining in his eyes. I shake my head slowly and reach up to drag my fingers over my tingling lips before finally putting my own seatbelt on. Not head games, no. I check for traffic, then pull out of the space. I wasn't jerking you around. I just didn't want to waste either of our time if I'd read you wrong before. He scoffs, and out of the corner of my eye, I notice him palming the hard outline of his cock through his shorts. And what exactly do you think you read? Enlighten me, Luca. Who do you think I am? I think you're a venomous snake waiting to sink your fangs into anyone who dares to tangle with you. I think you've learned to fake the role of helpless little lamb. But deep down, you're the predator biding your time until you're ready to strike. I think there's fire in you, and I didn't pay to blow it out. I paid so you'd let me stand close enough to get burned. Anders' breath catches, and I glance over to see him staring right back at me with wide eyes full of rage and terror and shock. Did I get you all wrong, my delicate viper? I ask, daring to watch him for another moment before returning my attention to the road ahead of me. No, he answers in a whisper that sounds like a shout in the stillness of the car. You didn't get me wrong. Good. I take the next turn and pull into the circular driveway of an upscale hotel. I drag my tongue over my bottom lip, tasting a slight tang of blood there along with the lingering flavor of Anders' mouth. I've barely had a taste of him, and I'm already sure one night won't be enough. But at least it's a start.
Chapter 3. Anders. I lean against a marble pillar in the lobby of the hotel, my face a careful mask of indifference, while Luca chats with a woman at the front desk, clearly laying on the charm to get a last-minute overnight reservation. She twists her lips in an apologetic smile and shakes her head, and I glance at the gold-trimmed revolving door a few feet away, wondering if I should just fucking bolt. My lips are tingling from whatever the fuck that was back in Luca's car, and my heart refuses to stop thundering. I'm not even going to talk about my cock. The little blue pills I keep tucked into the front pocket of my messenger bag probably won't be needed tonight, though, and that's a first. I was actually starting to wonder if there was something wrong with me. I've never had trouble getting hard on my own, with fantasies playing in my mind and my hand around my cock. Being pawed at by strangers, even attractive ones, has been more of a challenge in the last few years, though. Why didn't I take Luca up on his offer to take the money and call it a night? That's basically a dream scenario, a night of freedom to do whatever I want and money to transfer into my dad's account to keep him happy. I look back at Luca, brushing his dark hair off his forehead with one hand while he slides some kind of card across the desk with the other. A credit card? A business card? Who knows? Whatever it is, the woman instantly straightens in her seat, her eyes going wide and her cheeks flushing. Interesting. Apparently, whatever he handed her was enough to change her opinion about whether or not there's a room available for the night on such short notice. While she taps away at her keyboard, I study Luca. In the harsh light of the hotel lobby, I'm able to actually see him. Some guys look half-decent under the club lights and turn out to look like the crypt keeper's uglier brother once some real light shines on them, but Luca actually looks more attractive. With his sleeves rolled up, I can see the veins in his forearms and plenty of dark hair. His fingers are thick, and his hands look clean and unblemished, like he hasn't spent much of his life on any kind of hard labor. The way he's leaning over the desk, completing the booking, gives me the perfect view of the way his round ass cheeks test the absolute limits of his fitted pants. I lick my lips. The way he melted under the roughness of my kiss a few minutes ago makes it easy to imagine him bent over the bed, begging for my cock, as I spread his cheeks apart and tongue his hole until he cries. My cock throbs at the idea, but my brain throws on the brakes so fast I can practically smell burning rubber. I shake my head and bite down on the inside of my cheek. If I weren't so careful about my drinks, I'd wonder if someone had slipped me something. I don't know Luca any more than I've known any of the men who have bought me for a night. Maybe in a different version of my life, we might have met at Wonderland tonight and had chemistry. I might have let him buy me a drink and then spent the night dancing and grinding with him, working ourselves up into a horny fervor of genuine wanting before ending up right here anyway. No money exchanged, nothing but lust and chemistry. I roll my eyes at myself and tighten both hands around the strap of my bag just for something to do with them. There's no point thinking about alternate versions of my life. They're nothing but fantasy. My life is my life, and there's only one way to change a damn thing about it. Ready? Luca asks, stopping in front of me and holding up the room key. I give a jerky nod, pushing off the pillar and gesturing for him to lead the way to the elevators. He eyes me for a second with a frown. Don't tell me you're already back to trying to pretend you're all pliant and submissive. He arches an eyebrow, and I snort. Nope. I set my jaw and let every ounce of fire and defiance inside of me shine through my eyes as I meet his. You want me with a little bite? And I aim to please. I flash him a toothy smirk. His eyes flicker with heat. Promises, promises, he murmurs. A surprising thrill of electricity crackles through my veins, too, unsettling me and exciting me at the same time. One thing's for sure, this is going to be an interesting night. We get into the elevator, and another couple is right behind us. Lucas scowls momentarily, and for a second I almost expect him to order the other passengers out. I fight back the urge to laugh and pin him with a stern look. Shockingly, he looks a little sheepish, pulling himself together to stand politely against the back wall. Another zing of excitement and heat rushes through me, making my cock jerk in my too tight shorts. I reposition my messenger bag to make sure it's covering my unexpected erection. We reach our floor first, and Luca gives the couple a polite nod as he eases around them to step out. I'm right behind him, fighting the urge to call him a good boy for behaving himself. Maybe I shouldn't bother to resist it, though. Maybe that's exactly what he's looking for. I ponder it while he unlocks the room and then holds the door open, gesturing for me to go inside. I saunter past him, unlooping my bag from around my neck as I take in the room. If there was any question that Luca has money, this room alone would settle it. There's a living room, for fuck's sake. I didn't even know hotel rooms could be anything other than a single room with a bed and a grungy-ass bathroom attached. The temptation to linger and check out the view through the floor-to-ceiling windows, maybe test out whether the couch is as comfortable as it looks, is strong. But I'm not here to play pretend celebrity for the night, so I beeline for what I assume is the bedroom. I step through the double doors, set my bag down at the foot of the lush, king-sized bed, then spin around to face Luca. He's only a few paces behind me, flushed, with just a hint of shyness in his dark eyes. The man is an enigma. He had no trouble approaching me at Wonderland and telling me exactly what he wanted, and I'm sure that if I'd let him, he would have bullied those people into taking the next elevator. He must be used to getting his way, considering the whole exchange with the woman at the hotel desk. But that's not what he wants from me. He said he wants to get burned. I glance at his watch again and hold back the twitch of a smirk that threatens to give me away. I think I can deliver exactly what he's looking for tonight, and then some. I sit down on the end of the bed and pull one leg up to cross it over my knee so I can undo the laces on my boot. Luca unrolls his sleeves and then reaches up to start undoing his buttons, starting at the collar of his shirt. An uncomfortable silence lingers between us for a few breaths before I decide that I need to find out exactly what he's looking for, and if I can test a theory at the same time, all the better. I harden my gaze again, the same way I did in the elevator. Stop, I order, and his hands freeze instantly. I kick my first boot loose, then switch to the other, keeping my eyes trained on Luca's. Be a good boy, and tell me exactly what you want tonight. His breath hitches, and his pupils dilate against the already dark backdrop of his irises. He darts his tongue out to wet his lips, and my cock swells with interest all over again at the way his pouty mouth glistens. I want you to take me apart, he says hoarsely. I want you to be rough with me, and I want you to fuck me. My throat tightens with the urge to moan, and I have to work hard to keep my eyelids from fluttering and my bored expression from faltering. I've never had to try this hard to stay detached and impassive. I've never had to work at it at all. It's a natural defense mechanism that's always served me well. But there's something about Luca that's tempting me to let go. Maybe it's the way he checks boxes I didn't even know I had, or maybe it's the heady feeling of being less than 3 weeks from freedom that's making me reckless. Fuck it. I deserve to have fun for once in my life, don't I? I deserve to know what it feels like to actually enjoy sex, even if Luca is still just a paying customer. I let the impassive mask fall away, and his lips part with a soft moan. The bulge between his legs twitches visibly. I kick my second boot off, letting it fall to the floor with a thud, and then I splay my legs apart so he can see the answering swell of arousal pressing against the front of my shorts. Is that as specific as you'd like to be? I slide a hand between my thighs to squeeze my erection, then reach up and grab a handful of the back of my tank top so I can tug it over my head. Because if you have any more requests, you should tell me now before I use my top to gag you and then fuck you within an inch of your life. His throat bobs with a thick swallow. I slide off the bed and close the space between us in a few steps. This place is so posh that the carpet is actually soft under my bare feet instead of threadbare and concerningly sticky. But that thought is a fleeting one as I press myself up against Luca, his hands trembling as he continues to hold them still, halfway through unbuttoning his shirt. I stretch my tank top in front of him and arch an eyebrow, giving him one last chance. He shakes his head and licks his lips again, and this time I don't hold back the wicked grin that spreads over my face. Good boy, I purr, pressing up onto my tiptoes and shoving my shirt into his mouth. The fabric stifles a moan, and his eyes roll back. He jerks his hips to grind against me as I reach around to tie a knot behind his head. Heat coils in the pit of my stomach in response. I take a step back to appreciate my work. The air of confidence and swagger that has been radiating off of Luca since he shoved the other man aside at the club is gone now, replaced by a simpering, submissive need that makes me dizzy in the best way. My bare chest expands with the deep breaths I drag in, my nipples tightening and my cock throbbing with a level of arousal I didn't know was possible. A dribble of pre-cum slicks out of my slit to dampen my briefs. I hum in approval, taking a step back toward the bed again. I suppose you probably need a safe word or gesture. Luca shakes his head slowly, and I snort. Well, just in case, if you want me to stop, just flip me the bird. His eyes dance with amusement, and he laughs around his gag, then nods. Perfect. Now, I pop the buttons on my shorts and shimmy out of them, taking my underwear with them. I fold both and set them down next to my shoes, so I won't have to waste time searching for them later. Luca makes a strangled sound, and I sit back down on the end of the bed, bracing my hands behind me and casually spreading my legs so I'm fully on display for him. I feel a bit like a king with billion thread count sheets caressing my bare ass as I make a go-ahead gesture. Luca resumes undoing the buttons on his shirt, letting it all fall open little by little as he works his way down, exposing his chest covered in the same dark hair as his arms. There's a tattoo on the bottom left edge of his ribcage that looks like a family crest of some kind. His nipples are an almost chocolate color that makes my mouth water with the urge to suck and bite them until they're wet and swollen. He shrugs out of his shirt, letting it flutter to the floor in a pile at his feet before tugging his belt open and undoing his pants. He's not wasting time putting on a show, and I'm more than okay with that. I don't need a striptease, I just need him naked. He takes off his watch and places it on the dresser just inside the door. I track it with my eyes and then return my gaze to him. I cup my cock, teasing the silky skin of my shaft with my fingertips and catching another smear of pre-cum on my palm as he shoves his pants and briefs down to pool around his feet. His cock is long and thick, uncut, and nearly as dark as his nipples. It sways heavily as he steps out of his pants. His balls are just as big, swollen and weighty-looking, tempting me with visions of sucking and licking his sack until it's taut and oversensitive. My cock jerks against my palm, and I squeeze myself, nearly drunk on the lust that's coursing through me for the first time in my life. I hold up my finger and make a spinning motion with it, and Luca behaves, turning around to give me a good look at his ass, which somehow manages to look even better bare than it did in his pants that probably cost enough to make me choke. I slid off the bed and take 2 steps before falling to my knees behind him. He trembles a little, and I lean forward to sink my teeth into the fleshy swell of his cheek. Luca jumps with a muffled shout, and I grab his hips to keep him from getting away. Chuckling darkly, I switch to the other cheek and bite down just as hard. This time, he rumbles a moan and thrusts his hips back towards me, begging for more. "You said you wanted me with some bite," I tease, giving him one more nip before drawing my hand back to land a loud, satisfying thwack against the damp spot that's already starting to bruise with the shape of my mouth. With his legs just slightly spread, I can see the excited twitch of his balls as they draw up a little tighter from my rough treatment. I go back and forth a few times, alternating between hard bites and stinging slaps until both of his ass cheeks are warm and his back is heaving with his heavy, trembling breaths. The flex of his right bicep catches my attention, the motion unmistakable even from this angle. I force his legs another inch apart and reach between them to grab his balls roughly. My cock pulses and dribbles with the feeling of them tensing in my grasp and the muted whine he lets out. "Hands off," I command. "I'll decide if and when you come, slut." I didn't know I had dirty talk like this in me, but it tumbles from my lips without pause, and Luca's balls twitch violently in my hold again as he makes another horny sound deep in his chest. He drops his hands to his sides, and I reward him by clenching my fingers just a little harder around his sack for half a second before releasing him. After one more quick swat to each ass cheek, I get to my feet and press myself against Luca from behind. With our height difference, my cock ends up between his thighs, bumping against his taint and nudging at his balls. I've never wanted to taste anyone before, not outside of a jerk-off fantasy anyway, but a moan vibrates through me as I press a hot, open-mouthed kiss to the back of his shoulder, my mouth filling with the slightest sweet taste of his skin. I flick my tongue over the spot before sinking my teeth in the same way I did with his ass, sucking his flesh hard enough that I'm sure to leave a bruise. This is the only night I'll ever see Luca, and there's no doubt that by the time I'll leave, he'll hate me. But there's a satisfaction in leaving marks all over him anyway, in pretending for just an hour that this is more than it is. I snake an arm over his shoulders to wrap my hand lightly around his throat, not pressing down or cutting off his air supply, just holding tight enough to feel the vibration of every helpless, horny sound that the gag muffles as I thrust against him and bite marks all over the backs of his shoulders and neck. Every so often, his hips jerk involuntarily, and he squirms against me. I've never felt so powerful in my life. I've never even dreamed of it. The rush of it is something I could easily get addicted to, if things were different. If my life were different. Maybe once I'm free, I can find someone to play with just like this. Someone who will beg me to own them and wreck them like Luca did. I stamp down the flutter of disappointment in my chest that it can't be him. It can't be anyone in Wildcliff, because 20 days from now I'll be a ghost. I release my grip on his throat and take a step back. He whimpers loudly, but holds still as a statue while I bend down to open my bag. Inside, I have a length of silky rope along with the usual supplies: condoms, lube, wet naps for cleanup. I choke back a laugh at the fact that I started the night wondering how I would talk a John into letting me tie them up. A pang of regret ripples through me, but I have to do this. I have to. I grab the rope and the other supplies, then tangle my free hand in his hair, giving his head a sharp jerk. "Get on the bed, sweetheart," I purr, putting my lips near his ear and nipping at the lobe. "Hands above your head." Luca pants and attempts to nod, only managing a half jerk against my grip. I kiss his cheek, shivering at the sandpapery feel of his stubble on my lips, then let go of him so he can do as I say. He scrambles into position, spreading himself out with his hands over his head just like I told him. His cock lies heavy against his belly, swollen and dripping with pre-cum. He bends his knees and spreads his legs, giving me a subtle peek at his waxed pink hole, trembling to be filled and pounded. I tear open the condom with my teeth and roll it down my aching shaft. Then I toss a couple of packets of lube onto the bed and climb on top of him. Luca groans and bucks his hips as I straddle him and shuffle up higher until my sheathed cock is swinging just an inch from his gagged mouth. I'm going to tie your hands. You can safe word by snapping if you need to. The half-lie tastes bitter on my tongue. If he safe words, obviously I'll stop what I'm doing, but I already know I'm not going to untie him. My heart hammers with a mixture of guilt and arousal as I tie loose knots that should be easy for him to slip out of later. I would hate to leave him stranded here to be discovered, naked and humiliated by the hotel staff tomorrow. I just need to slow him down when it's time for me to leave. My cock bumps against him while I work, and he nuzzles it, making hungry sounds that leave no room to wonder if he would suck me if he could. Heat blazes up my spine at the thought of having Luca's lips wrapped around my bare cock, sucking and licking me, moaning like a slut while I fuck his mouth. My cock throbs, and I bite my lip against a moan as I finish the knots. There's nothing but burning desire in Luca's eyes as I crawl back down the bed and position myself between his legs. I hold his gaze as I rip open the packet of lube and squirt it directly onto my cock. He said he wanted it rough, and clearly a little bit of pain isn't a problem for him. I push his thighs farther apart and nudge his tight hole with my slicked cock, waiting a few seconds to give him the chance to snap if he needs to. But he doesn't flinch or hesitate. He just stares right back with lust and need etched into every inch of his face. I push forward, and the pressure of his ring of muscles around the head of my cock makes the heat gathered in my gut twist and tighten. I gasp as I force my way through, and Luca arches up off the bed, his cock jerking so violently that for a second I wonder if he's coming already. Strands of pre-cum leak from his slit and create streaks over his abs. He balls his fists and lets out a suppressed wail around the gag as I fill him in a single thrust. His channel flutters and clenches around me, making my balls tighten and my toes curl. I don't give him a chance to catch his breath before pulling almost all the way out and slamming home again. Luca makes another wild sound, and I notice a streak of moisture on his cheek that might be sweat, but I don't think it is. I reach up and catch it on my thumb, my cock throbbing deep inside of him as we both pause for just a second and stare at each other. My heart stills, and an unexpected surge of affection swells. Luca's nostrils flare, and his eyelids flutter. Then he cants his hips impatiently, snapping me out of the unexpected tender moment. I pull out again and fill him with another jarring thrust, but this time I don't pause. The slap, slap, slap of our bodies colliding fills the room as I find a punishing rhythm and pound into him mercilessly. His cock bobs and bounces against his stomach as our harsh pants and untamed moans join in. More tears streak down his cheeks, but everything about him screams that he's a man untethered by pleasure, so I don't stop. I fuck him harder and deeper, letting myself forget for just a minute that anything else exists except for this moment. Letting myself pretend that this is my real life, tying up a gorgeous man and bringing him to tears with my cock inside of him simply because we're wild for each other. I screw my eyes closed and fuck him faster, memorizing the feeling of his heated skin under my fingertips and the sound of his breaths just before he falls over the edge. I can feel him tightening around me, getting closer and closer. Without opening my eyes, I reach down and wrap my hand around his cock in a rough grip. It only takes 2 hard tugs before he's thrashing underneath me, his inner muscles clamping tightly around me. His sticky release fills my palm and spills between my fingers as I jerk him with strokes that match my pace, not letting up as he twitches and pulses around my cock. A stupid part of me wants to open my eyes and savor the look of pleasure that's no doubt twisting his features and deepening his olive skin with a flush, but I can't do it. I throw my head back and give myself over to my own orgasm instead, the force of it nearly knocking the wind out of me as my balls clench and my cock answers his throbbing pulses with my own. I grunt and groan through stuttered thrusts as I ride out wave after wave of pleasure until I can't anymore. I shiver with hypersensitivity as I slip my spent cock out of Luca's still twitching hole and finally pry my eyes open. He looks just as beautifully wrecked as I imagined, his forehead wet with sweat and his heavy-lidded eyes watching me with a look that can only be described as worshipful. Fuck. My breath catches in my throat, and I send up a silent prayer of forgiveness for what I'm about to do. I take off the condom and climb off of him. I take a few deep breaths to steady myself while I tie it off and toss it into the trash, and then I turn back to Luca, hoping he can't see anything off about the smile on my lips. "You were so good for me, my precious slut," I murmur, leaning over the bed to loosen the knot on his gag. There's drool running down his chin, and he makes a sad little whimper of loss as I ease it out of his mouth. "Stay here for me for another minute, okay?" I ask, even though he doesn't have much choice. Luca nods wordlessly, even though he has full use of his mouth again. He doesn't question me or even tense as I move my shirt up to his eyes and tie it into a blindfold again. My heart thunders wildly against my ribcage as I quickly tiptoe back to the foot of the bed and dress in a hurry. I didn't plan to use my shirt as a gag or blindfold, but I do always keep a change of clothes in my bag just in case. I pull my fresh t-shirt out and slip it over my head, and then, holding my breath, I grab his discarded pants off the floor and fish out his wallet. The sheets rustle, but I don't have the guts to look over at him again. I can't exactly tiptoe with my boots on, but I move as quietly as I can, snatching his watch off of the dresser and wincing at the metallic rattle as I close my fist around it. "Anders?" Luca asks in a hoarse voice. Bile rises in my throat, and I pause one step outside of the bedroom, daring to look back at him for just a beat. "I'm really sorry," I whisper. And then I bolt. I'm sure it's going to take him at least a minute to get himself untied, and I doubt he'll chase me down bare-assed naked, but my mind plays tricks on me anyway, convincing me that I can hear his thundering footsteps right behind me as I flee down the stairs as fast as I can, not daring to look back as I burst out the door at the back of the hotel and into the pitch-dark night beyond. I don't stop or slow down. If anything, I pick up speed, sprinting down the street until I'm able to get lost in the bustle of the bar district on this side of town. I finally risk a glance over my shoulder to reassure myself that Luca isn't after me. Of course he's not, but that doesn't do anything to loosen the knots in my chest. Trembling from head to toe, I duck into an alley and lean my back against the rough brick of the wall, gulping down trembling breaths to try to get myself under control. I realize I'm still holding his wallet and watch clutched in my hands. I stuff the watch into my bag and then open the wallet. The number of crisp $100 bills inside nearly makes me choke. I pull them out and stuff them into the front pocket of my bag too, doing a mental calculation of how much I have now. Enough. Finally. At least enough to get away and be able to get by for a couple of months until I can find a legit job somewhere. That knowledge is enough to ease a tiny bit of the guilt still burning its way through my intestines. I'm about to ditch the wallet when the driver's license catches my eye in the dull glow of a nearby street lamp. He looks good in the picture, unlike most people. With a sad smile, I glance at the name printed on it, and my heart stops, my veins filling with ice water instantly. Luca Moretti. Moretti. The M stands for Moretti, as in the biggest crime family in the city, possibly even the country. The Morettis own this city, from gambling debts on the Upper East Side to drug dealers in the projects. I've heard rumors that even the mayor takes a tidy percentage under the table to look the other way and let them continue to rule from the shadows. I start to shake from head to toe, and a manic laugh bursts from my throat. Leave it to me to be 3 short weeks from a new life, only to inadvertently rob a fucking Moretti. For the first goddamn time in my life, my father is the least of my concerns. I'm a fucking dead man.
Chapter 4. Luca. The sound of the hotel room door slamming closed as a bucket of ice water on the blissful post-orgasmic moment I was enjoying only seconds ago. I'm really sorry. Anders' whispered words register too late, everything suddenly falling into place. The metallic rattle, his quick departure. He robbed me. He bruised my mouth with rough kisses I've only dreamed of before, reached into my mind, gave me every fantasy I've never said out loud, and then he tied me up and robbed me. I let out a borderline unhinged burst of laughter in the eerily silent room. If anyone else had pulled a stunt like that, I'd be imagining dozens of ways to make them suffer before splattering their brains all over the nearest surface. I should be fucking seething, but I laugh again as an oddly warm affection fills my chest. He's got some fucking balls, that's for sure, I mutter, giving the binding around my wrist a slight tug to assess just how fucked I am. To my surprise, I can feel the ropes loosening immediately. He tied a slip knot. Thank fuck for small mercies. Another slightly harder tug and the knot falls apart completely. I shove the blindfold up and blink as my eyes adjust to the light again. A sinking feeling settles in my chest when I see that Anders is really and truly not here. I didn't think he would be, but I suppose a small part of me was holding out hope that this was some kind of kinky game he was playing. His bag is gone, his clothes are gone, except for the white tank top that's balled in my fist, and a quick glance lets me know my watch isn't where I left it. I slide out of bed, wincing and groaning at the ache between my ass cheeks and the delightful soreness dotted all over my skin where he bit and marked me. I snatch my pants up off the floor and check the pockets. My wallet is gone, but he left my keys. That's something, at least. The urge to get dressed in a hurry and chase Anders down is strong, but I'm sure he's smart enough that he didn't linger right outside the hotel or anything quite that stupid. I consider the area while I get dressed and decide he probably ran towards the nightlife district on this side of town to get lost in the crowds. My clothes are slightly wrinkled, but otherwise no worse for wear after spending an hour crumpled on the floor. I wish I could say as much for myself. I feel like I'm coming apart at the seams, like one little tug could completely unravel me. Until tonight, I've never had the courage to ask anyone to be rough with me. I've played the cocky, confident, in-control lover they all expected me to be, then gone home, lubed up my favorite toy, and fucked myself to fantasies of being owned and hurt just right. I clench my ass at the memory of the first sharp sting of Anders' teeth on my skin, and the move sends a fresh ache through me. I hiss and my spent cock twitches. I feel completely lost, standing in the middle of the bedroom, the defiled bed feet away. Deciding what to do next feels impossible. Even simply choosing to get in my car and drive home seems unbearable, as if the too brief euphoria of giving all my power over to someone else, to Anders, irrevocably broke my brain. I clench and unclench my fingers around my keys in my pocket, then let out a slow breath. I stuff Anders' shirt into my pocket. It's too big to fit, so half of it hangs out like a trashy version of a pocket square. Then I straighten my shoulders, forcibly shake off the needy feeling clawing at my chest, and head for the door. I'm on autopilot as I retrieve my car from the valet and mutter an apology for not having a tip for him. My thoughts stay muddled and distracting as I cruise down the road, scanning the crowds gathered outside of the various bars and clubs for any sign of Anders. I'm sure he's hopped a bus or gone back to Wonderland to get his own car by now. Hell, with the amount of money that was in my wallet, he could have gotten himself a limo home, probably. I huff and press down harder on the gas to get the hell out of here. A few minutes later, I pass the turn that would lead to my neighborhood and keep driving until I reach a familiar street lined with brownstones. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here, but that doesn't stop me from parking, climbing the steps, and pressing the button for the top floor unit. I reach into my pocket and wrap my fingers around the wrinkled fabric of Anders' shirt again. It's damp from being stuffed into my mouth. I lick my lips absently at the memory. It takes a minute or two before a familiar voice crackles through the speaker next to the door. Do you have any idea what fucking time it is? There's a gruff edge of sleep in his voice, and I wince. Sorry, Uncle Sal, I wasn't thinking, I answer. I let my finger up from the button for a second and try to get the words, I'll just go home, to form on my lips. Going home to my empty apartment sounds like fucking torture, if I'm being honest. If I do, I'd say there's at least a 50% chance that I'll end up driving around looking for Anders instead. Come to think of it, that isn't the worst idea I've ever had. The burning need to hunt him down and what? Not ask for my wallet or watch back? He can keep those. I don't want to hurt him or teach him a lesson. If I'm honest, I'd rather leave that to him and busy myself coming up with some fun ways to earn them. No. What I want to do is hunt him down, throw him in my car, and take him back to my place so I can keep him for myself. I want to maim any other man who dares to touch him from here on out. And I want to spoil him until he forgets that he ever needed to rob anyone to survive. I clench my teeth against the laugh that's creeping up my throat. I paid for one night with a sex worker, and now I want to kidnap him and keep him. I'd wonder if there's something fucking wrong with me, but given the genetic line, I'm guessing that's a solid yes. The sigh that bursts through the speaker startles me, reminding me that I'm standing outside of Uncle Sal's apartment in the middle of the night. No, come on up. Your mother will have my balls if you're having some kind of fucking crisis at 1 o'clock in the morning and I send you away. Dante probably will too. The buzz of the door unlocking follows only seconds later. I half out a laugh and wince at the reminder that I probably woke his husband too. I should have thought a little harder before coming over here in the middle of the night, but he's already awake now, so it's not like I can turn around and go home. By the time I reach his apartment, he's waiting for me in the hallway. Uncle Sal pats me on the shoulder and leads me inside. His dark hair is sticking up in all directions, and he's dressed in a pair of fleece pajama bottoms and a t-shirt. It's weird to see him in anything other than one of his colorful suits. I follow him into the kitchen where he has a bottle of scotch out and waiting for us. He lifts the bottle to his lips, gulps down 2 swigs, then sets it on the counter with a meaningful look in my direction. I figure if you've gotten yourself into some kind of trouble, then it's better if I'm a little buzzed when you tell me. I chuckle and cross the space, picking up the bottle and taking a gulp of my own before leaning against the counter opposite him. I'm not in trouble. He arches an eyebrow at me. You just thought it would be a good idea to rouse a man with a gun out of a peaceful slumber in the middle of the night. I grimace. I had a shitty night and I wasn't thinking. So personal trouble instead of professional. He visibly relaxes, recapping the bottle and shoving it into the cabinet over the refrigerator. That's a lot fucking easier to deal with. I snort and wrap my hand tighter around Anders' t-shirt, half in my pocket still. Sal's eyes drop to where it's sticking out, and he scrunches his forehead but doesn't outright ask what the hell I'm doing carrying around a white tank top. I don't know. I think I'd rather stop by here to tell you I had to beat down another Fitzpatrick for showing his freckled ginger ass in our city. Sal's mouth twists into a scowl. Yeah, well, I wouldn't. An all-out Mafia war is the last goddamn thing we need. Yeah, I murmur in absent agreement. He's probably right. That shit is above my pay grade either way. Honestly, I don't know why I came by. Why don't you tell me why your night was so shitty, and I'll see if I can Encyclopedia Brown this thing. He waves in a go-ahead gesture that reminds me of Anders doing the same thing earlier, prompting me to undress while he watched me from the bed. A spike of heat and shame rushes through me. It started off pretty damn good. I cast my gaze down to my feet, trying to decide how much I want to tell my uncle now that I've dragged him out of bed. Met a guy at a club, got a hotel room. Don't tell me you heard him. His tone is so dark that it startles me, and I snap my head back up so I can look at him. The way his fingers twitch, I think he's actually wishing he had his gun to point at me right now. A shiver runs through me at the thought of doing anything to hurt Anders, and I hold up my hands in defense. Hell no. Of course I didn't hurt him. He relaxes and blows out a breath. Good. I hope you know that your mother would remove your balls if you had. He pauses and then chuckles. And so would Dante. No joke, my ma would castrate me slowly if I ever hurt someone like that. There's a hell of a big difference between hurting people who have knowingly fucked with the Morettis and hurting someone like that. No, Jesus, I say again. We had fun, and then... I clear my throat, heat rising in my face. He robbed me and took off. There's a beat of silence before Sal howls with laughter. You got rolled? That's fucking priceless. I bite my tongue and wait for his laughing fit to end. He doubles over and cackles, wiping tears off of his cheeks. Irritation rises in my chest. If it were anyone other than Anders, I can see how the emotion would easily turn into a need for revenge, to soothe my ego and protect my reputation by making sure he could never brag to anyone about tying up and robbing him already. But all I feel is a strange sense of pride for how he pulled it off. Right, I think I'm gonna go. I push off the counter, but Sal thrusts a hand out, placing it in the middle of my chest to stop me from leaving. I'm sorry, but that's funny shit. Obviously, you can never tell anyone else. You know that, right? I give a tight nod. I know. So, did you teach him a lesson? Sal asks, and my jaw ticks. Understanding fills his eyes immediately. You're into him. He rolled your ass, and you're ready to chase after him like a puppy, aren't you? I tense all over. I shouldn't have said anything to Sal either. Uncle or not, he's still ahead of me in the Moretti chain of command. Losing his respect could get me killed. Between you and me, I get it, he admits. You do? I ask slowly, waiting for the trap to snap shut around me, but he just nods. Having a thing for reckless psychopaths might be a family trait. He gives me a wry smile. So, what are you going to do? I leave that cryptic remark untouched and consider his question instead. What am I going to do about Anders? The knowing smirk on Sal's face tells me he knows the answer before I say it out loud. I'm going to find him. He clasps my shoulder, giving it a squeeze, and there's a flicker of affection in the twitch of his smile. I had a feeling.
Anders. I keep one hand tightly on my messenger bag as I quietly jog up the steps to my apartment. The building is a definite improvement from where we lived a few years ago. The hallway lights are never burned out, there's no smell of meth wafting between apartments, and not once have I seen a rat scurrying around. A complicated mixture of pride and resentment swirls in my chest every time I climb these stairs. I did this. Everything we have, including this place, is because of me. But none of it was my choice. Not really. I stop outside of my apartment door and strain my ears for any signs that my dad is still awake. It's late enough that he should be passed out drunk in front of the TV by now, but some nights he goes hard, snorting lines of coke in between drinks, which can keep him up well into the wee hours. All I can hear is the dull murmur of the television, no shuffling footsteps or telltale clinking of bottles. My heart has been racing since I left Luca tied to the bed, and the last fucking thing I need tonight is to deal with my dad acting like an entitled prick. I'm bound to say something fucking rude if he starts in on me, and fuck knows how that tends to end. I rub the phantom bruise on my jaw that is thankfully faded since the last time I reminded him who actually pays for every fucking thing we have, including all of his drug-fueled binges. I undo the locks and then ease the door open slowly. A snore rattles from the living room, and I let out a relieved breath. I still have a target on my back, thanks to my dumbass luck of robbing a Moretti tonight, but at least I won't have to deal with my dad's bullshit before morning. Possibly even the afternoon, depending on how much he drank. I don't turn on any lights as I tiptoe down the hall towards my bedroom, holding my breath until my door is firmly closed and locked behind me. I press the button on the white noise machine I keep near my door, then I unloop my bag from around my shoulders and drop to my knees. I fold back the shaggy rug and claw at the floorboards with my blunt fingernails, cursing under my breath as I try to get purchase. I finally manage to catch it just right, tugging the board up and reaching inside. My fingers brush against smooth plastic, and I tug the bag out of the hole. There's a roll of bills inside and a few other watches, none of them anywhere near as expensive as Luca's Rolex, though. My stomach writhes. Did Luca get himself free? The knots should have given way easily enough, so I don't know why I'm worrying about it. The image of him trembling and alone on the bed fills my mind, and I'm torn between laughing and tearing out of here so I can run back to him and make sure he's okay. The urge to laugh has nothing to do with mocking his vulnerable position, to be clear, and that's just as fucking confusing as almost everything else that happened tonight, because I've never given half a shit about anyone before. Hell, most of the dudes I pick up deserve a lot worse than being tied up and robbed. No, the urge to laugh is because it's fucking absurd to think that a mafioso, a Moretti, would ever need comfort from anyone, let alone me. I chew on my bottom lip, tasting the metallic tang of blood in my mouth as I add the money and Luca's watch to my stash. Once I've got it securely hidden away again with the floorboard and rug back in place, I stay on the floor, untying my shoes and then leaning back against the door. I pull my phone and see a notification from a missed text. I smile, knowing there's only one person it could be from. Finn. My roommate tried to set our dorm room on fire with his illicit hot plate tonight. I finally understand why they have the rule against them. Luckily, we put it out before it could do any more than singe the carpet. Not sure how we're going to explain the burned carpet if they ask about it once we move out, though. They can't withhold my diploma for an illegal hot plate, can they? I chuckle, and for just a minute, I let myself get swept away from the grim realities of my life and pretend hot plates are the biggest issue I can imagine. He sent the message a few hours ago, and I'm sure he's asleep by now, but I respond anyway, knowing he'll see it when he wakes up. Anders, don't stress. Worst case, they make you pay to replace the carpet. I've got it if you need it, like always. I glance back at where my stash is hidden as I press send on the message. How much can it cost to replace the carpet in a 200-square-foot dorm room anyway? Whatever it is, I'm sure I can spare it. For my little brother, I can spare whatever he needs. For my little brother, I can put myself in the direct path of my father, letting him pimp me out without complaint on the condition that he doesn't go anywhere near Finn. And for my little brother, I can keep a smile on my face and shield him from the realities of what I've done to keep him safe and happy since our mom died. I kiss my fingers and touch them to the picture of Finn and me together that takes up the background on my phone screen. Less than 3 weeks and he'll be in a whole different state, too far away for my dad to get to him. Then I can finally leave Wild Cliff behind too. Assuming I don't catch a bullet from the Morettis first.
Chapter 5. Luca. Rabbit looks me up and down curiously as I approach Wonderland for the second night in a row. I woke up this morning wondering if last night was nothing more than a wet dream requiring the expertise of a trained mental health professional. Not the kinky sex part, obviously, but the part where I got rolled from my watch and wallet and it somehow made me like Anders even more. I'm not sure how long I spent looking over my shoulder at the reflection of my back, prodding the mouth-shaped bruises marring my shoulders, neck, and ass cheeks, reliving every hot, shivery moment of being taken apart the way I've always wanted, reassuring myself that it was real, that Anders was real. And then I spent the rest of the day on autopilot, going through the motions as I made my collection rounds and checked in on the laundromats that serve as a front, among other businesses, for the Moretti fortune. But this is where my mind has been since I left Uncle Sal's in the wee hours of this morning, right here at Wonderland. It seemed like a good place to start. Anders was comfortable enough here that he must be a regular, even if he doesn't come every night. The thought that he might not be here tonight makes my jaw clench involuntarily and my fingers coil in frustration. I reach up to straighten my tie reflexively, more to give myself something to do than anything else. I slow my steps as I near Rabbit, and he hesitates for just a fraction of a second before nodding and letting me through. "Good man," I mutter, slipping a folded bill into his hand as I pass. It's even more crowded inside than it was last night. The air is sticky and humid with the heavy breathing and sweaty, writhing bodies that pack the space. My heart picks up speed in time with the fast, sensual beat of the song that's blaring through the main speakers. Tonight, scantily clad men and women dance inside the cages on the edges of the dance floor. Colored strobe lights illuminate each of them as they swivel their hips and tempt patrons to toss money at their feet with nothing but the movements of their bodies and a few well-placed smiles. I've been one of those panting customers before, shoving money at them and hoping they'll look in my direction. But now that I've had a taste of what I really want, there's only one man on my mind. Maybe it's possessive or unhinged to spend one night with a man and decide he's mine. I don't care if it is. Anders is mine, and I'll do whatever it takes to convince him of that. But first, I need to find him. There aren't any open seats at the bar tonight, which is fine, because I'm too keyed up to sit down anyway. I eye the bartenders who are working tonight, trying to decide who's most likely to know Anders and be willing to give me information. Obviously, I don't need any more of Caterpillar's cryptic bullshit. I quickly dismiss the blonde with big blue eyes I've never seen before as well, because something about the dazed in-over-his-head expression screams newbie. Which leaves just one option. I sidle up to the bar, forcing my way between a couple of customers, meeting their squawks of protest with a menacing glare that has their mouths snapping shut instantly. While I wait to catch the bartender's attention, I scan the length of the bar just to make sure I'm not so focused on tracking Anders down that I miss him altogether. But he's not here. At least, not yet. The bartender I need is wearing an off-kilter top hat, which he does most nights, tilting it to accept tips from customers as he hustles up and down the length of the bar. There's a wild air about him, something about the look in his eyes. Or maybe it's his messy dark hair that sticks up in all directions whenever he pulls the hat off. He's tall and slender, both his arms covered in colorful ink from wrist to shoulder. Among the kaleidoscope of color is a sleepless reaper's tattoo that's barely visible, obscured by the rest like he's tried to have it covered up. But nothing can quite erase that piece of his past, no matter how hard he tries. Mads, which is the name scrawled messily on his name tag, finally spots me and practically skips down to greet me with a lopsided smile and a tilt of his head. Well, if it isn't Luca Moretti here for a second night in a row. Meeting someone? He arches his eyebrows and then waggles them. I would think you lot have better things to gossip about than my comings and goings, I mutter. Mads leans across the bar toward me. It's not that we're so interested in the goings, he winks. Now, what are you drinking? Nothing tonight. I'm looking for someone, actually. Aren't we all? He says with a chuckle. I huff, trying my damnedest to hold on to my patience. If I wanted riddles, I would have just asked Caterpillar about Anders again. Someone specific, I clarify. He was here last night. His name is Anders, and he picks up clients here. I'm assuming he's a regular. I give him a meaningful look, and the jovial expression on Mads' face hardens into a careful mask. I don't know, man. We get a lot of people in here. All kinds of people who come in for all kinds of reasons. He shrugs, already taking a step back and angling his body away like he's about to make a quick escape. And if you're not going to order a drink, I really need to keep moving. The Red Queen will have my head if he peeks out of his office and sees me standing around chatting. I've always prided myself on being a fairly level-headed guy, but tonight my patience is hanging on by a thread. Unfortunately for Mads, he has the misfortune of being the one to make it snap. I put both hands on the bar top and vault over it, the momentum carrying me. As soon as my feet touch the ground, I close the space between us and gather the front of his shirt in two fists. The shelf of half-full bottles lining the back wall rattles as I shove him up against it. His top hat tumbles off and falls to the floor by our feet, spilling crumpled cash and a few random odds and ends. I'm not fucking playing, Mads. I just need to know how often he usually comes in. The color drains from his face, making him look sickly under the green light shining directly above us. Calm your fucking tits, Moretti, he says with more bravado than is written on his face. What do you want with Anders anyway? None of your damn business, I growl, my frustration mounting. Problem? A familiar drawling voice asks. I glance over my shoulder to see Caterpillar with a baseball bat in one hand, his usual joint hanging from his lips and one of his bushy eyebrows raised in my direction. Not if Mads will answer my fucking question. I tighten my grip and shove him against the shelves again, sending a bottle of vodka tumbling from its spot to shatter on the floor, soaking our feet and a good portion of his money. I'm not sure how I hear it over the music and the drone of voices, but a sharp gasp has me jerking my head to the other side just in time to see Anders standing a few feet away, his eyes wide with unmistakable terror. I drop Mads immediately and he stumbles to the side. Whether he regains his balance is of no interest to me. I have one singular focus, and that's the angel-faced viper standing just on the other side of the bar. Anders! I bark his name with relief, my feet carrying me towards him without conscious thought. His lips part on what looks like another startled inhale, and before I can hop back over the bar, he bolts.
Anders. Fuck. I chant the curse in my head as I duck and weave my way through the crowd of sweaty bodies. I knew I shouldn't have come back here tonight, but the only alternative would have been to find a corner in the warehouse district like everyone else, and that's always a last resort. Anyone who sold sex knows the street is fucking dangerous. I'm just as likely to get beaten up and stiffed for payment as I am to have everything go well, and I don't like those odds. And forget charging like I do. Not when there's someone standing 5 feet away willing to do the same job for $20 to cover their next fix. That's tomorrow Anders' problem, though, assuming I live to see another day. It's not looking all that promising at the moment. I don't check behind me to see if he's coming because I'm positive he is. And if I'm about to die, I really wish my first thought when I spotted Luca hadn't been how fucking hot he looked, threatening poor Mads. Like, really, Anders, have enough self-respect to not get a boner over your own damn murderer. I'm hoping my height is working in my favor, helping me get lost in the crowd. Instead of heading for the main door, I make a beeline for the emergency exit with the disabled alarm. It's half hidden by the shadow of the staircase, and I've never seen anyone other than staff use it before, so I figure it's my best chance to lose Luca. Then what? I'm not sure. Take my chances and get the hell out of here a few weeks early? I don't think I can risk it. Spend the next 19 days looking over my shoulder and sleeping with one eye open? I mean, I pretty much do that anyway, so it's doable, but not ideal. I bite back a growl of frustration at my own bad luck for what has to be the dozenth time since last night. From now on, I'm going to adopt a policy of checking someone's ID before I rob them. Again, assuming I live that long. I burst through the door, leaving the heat of the club behind in favor of the mild evening. The heavy door swings shut behind me, and the stench of garbage hits me. I slap a hand over my mouth and nose to stifle the smell and look both ways down the alley to orient myself. To the left, I can see the faint glow of the neon sign that hangs at the front of the club, so I pivot to the right. Before I can take a single step, the door flies open behind me and a pair of arms wrap around my middle. I shriek and flail, kicking my legs and windmilling my arms as my heart goes wild inside my chest. God damn, I love that fighting you. Luca's smooth voice whispers near my ear. The purr of adoration in his tone sends a wave of molten heat through me. It has to be a trap, though. He's trying to get me to let my guard down so he can kill me. I fight harder, bucking in his grasp, screaming until my throat is sore. Of course, on this side of town, I don't expect anyone to come running to my rescue. I don't expect much of anything. But if I'm going to die, I refuse to do it quietly. I won't make it easy for Luca. I'll leave bruises. I'll make sure there's a permanent ringing in his ears that will remind him of me until his dying day. His arms loosen around me, and my feet hit the ground again. Before I can get my balance, let alone make a run for it, Luca's hand wraps around my forearm, surprisingly gently, and he shoves me up against the building. The rough brick bites into my back through my thin t-shirt. I drag in another deep breath to renew my screaming, and his hand comes down over my mouth. His hands are as smooth as they looked last night, pleasantly warm and without a single callus that I can feel. He never touched me last night, not once. It's an odd thought to have right before I die, but it's there anyway. He wanted me to be rough with him, to hurt him just a little, but even now, pinning me up against the wall and covering my mouth, there's no roughness in return. A manic laugh tightens in my throat. He's a fucking Moretti. He doesn't need to beat the shit out of me to kill me. No, brutish shit like that is for motorcycle gangs like the Sleepless Reapers. Mafiosos are far too classy to walk around with bruised and bloodied knuckles. My chest heaves with every breath I drag in through my nose as Luca looms over me in the moonlight. A strand of his hair falls forward over his forehead, and I have the insane urge to reach up and brush it back for him. Jesus, is this disassociation? Depersonalization? My brain going absolutely fucking batshit as a way to protect me from what's about to happen? A slow smile spreads over Luca's lips. There, he says now that I've stopped screaming. No need to have Rabbit rushing over here on some misguided mission to protect you. He's a good guy. I'd hate to have to kill him. My heart rate spikes again, and I return to flailing, gnashing my teeth in an attempt to get purchase against the palm of his hand and doing everything I can to get him off of me. Luca responds by pressing himself harder against me, flattening his body over mine and clamping his hand tighter to my face. Shh, little viper. As much as I love your venom, I need you to calm down and listen to me, he whispers, dragging his nose along the side of my face like we're lovers. Goosebumps rise all over my skin, and my cock chooses this moment to perk up and take notice. I'm not going to hurt you. I huff out a laugh against his hand. Not going to hurt me? Right. I'm sure that after being tied up, robbed, and humiliated, mafiosos routinely hunt down the perpetrators just to talk. Totally legit. I play along anyway, forcing my body to still and widening my eyes with faux innocence. I nod agreeably, and Luca loosens his hand. Good. I'm not going to hurt you, Luca says again, and some very stupid part of me almost believes him. Almost. With a deep breath through my nose and a silent prayer to a god I don't believe in, I bring my knee up sharply between us and drive it hard into his balls. Luca gasps, and a look that could almost be mistaken for reverence flickers over his face before he stumbles back. I don't hesitate this time, but for some fucking reason I do mutter, sorry, for the second time in 24 hours before bolting down the alley and leaving Luca Moretti behind.
Chapter 6. Luca. The overt sexual energy in every beat of the sensual music blaring through the speakers, pouring off of the men wearing nothing but G-strings or ass-hugging shorts as they weave through the crowd to deliver drinks or offer lap dances, is a world away from the vibe inside Wonderland. Wild, the only all-male primarily queer-focused strip club in Wildcliff, maybe even the state, has been Lorenzo Moretti's pet project since the day he took over the family. Maybe it's the manufactured feeling of it all, like sex is an expectation here rather than a result of raw lust like it is at Wonderland. Or maybe it's just me. Here at Wild, there's no escaping who I am. Even the assessing looks from the dancers I pass have a touch of curiosity and fear, like they're not sure if they want me to notice them or not. My skin prickles and my frown deepens as the memory of Anders' terrified expression last night flashes through my mind. There's no way he'll go back to Wonderland tonight, which means I'm going to need an actual plan to track him down now. I doubt Mads or any of the other guys know much more about Anders than I do, and obviously they aren't willing to spill even if they do. Not without a hell of a lot of incentive. And something tells me beating information out of the bartenders will make it awkward as hell to order a drink the next time. It's an option, but not the one I want to start with if I can help it. A large, muscled man wearing nothing but a bow tie and black briefs steps into my path. He looks me up and down slowly and then curls his lips into a smile that's clearly meant to be tempting. Maybe it would be if he were my type. I imagine a sassy twink in his place and give an involuntary shake of my head. No, not even then. Anders is under my skin and no one else will do. Can I help you with anything, Mr. Moretti? He purrs suggestively, and a memory of meeting him before flickers in my head. Lucifer. That's his name. Or at least the one he goes by here. He was one of the dancers I met while I was playing bodyguard to Dante a few months ago. I shake my head again. No, thank you. I'm here for a meeting. He puts on an exaggerated pout. Bummer. If you change your mind, come find me. He winks and saunters away with a sway in his hips. I managed to reach Uncle Sal's favorite table without catching the attention of any other dancers. Tonight, he's the well-put-together capo I'm used to seeing, dripping with a quiet air of don't fuck with me, from his stylish burgundy three-piece suit with a black undershirt and tie to the confident set of his shoulders as he sips a drink and watches the man on stage. Dante. He's the most popular dancer here, and not just because he's painfully beautiful, although that doesn't hurt. No. The reason he keeps men panting for him is because he's not content to simply shake his ass and shed his clothes to the same overplayed strip anthems. His routines are pure artistry, from his pole work to choreography that seamlessly lends itself to each item of clothing falling off one by one. None of that is the reason Sal can't look away, though. No, that's just pure unbridled obsession with his husband. Dante had to take a few months off after one of the Fitzpatricks attacked him, and I can tell by the look of ecstasy on his face as he swings around the pole that he's glad to be back. If only part-time now while he works on setting up a dance studio of his own. He does a twirl and kick move as he shrugs his shirt off of his shoulders, and one of the men eagerly pressed up against the side of the stage reaches for him, his fingers grazing the dancer's calf. A flash of fire heats Dante's expression and he bares his teeth. He drops into a crouch and grabs the man's hand, twisting his finger roughly. "Touch me again and I'll break your fingers one by one," he hisses. The man whimpers and yanks his hand back. I chuckle under my breath. Uncle Sal was right. Moretti men have a type. I pull out the chair opposite his and he finally drags his attention away from the stage, away from Dante. He glances at my face, his attention lingering only a fraction of a second, but it's long enough for me to feel like I'm under a microscope. I clear my throat and reach into the inside pocket of my suit jacket, pulling out a thick envelope filled with my collections for the day. I slide it across the table and he takes it without comment. I wait while he counts it and then spends a few minutes tapping away at the screen of his tablet, entering the corresponding amounts into his spreadsheets. When he's done, he looks up at me again, raising his eyebrows and quirking his lips in a questioning smile. "Well, are you going to make me come right out and ask?" He doesn't pause long enough for me to actually answer, so I'm guessing that was a rhetorical question. "Did you find the ballsy twink who robbed you and profess your undying love to him, or what?" I snort a laugh, and my balls give an involuntary throb at the memory of Anders's knee plowing into them last night. My chest tightens and I bite back a whimper. If Anders knew how badly I wanted to kiss the hell out of him while he desperately tried to fight me off, he'd realize just how fucked up I am. I don't want him scared and I don't want him to hurt. But seeing the fight in him, feeling the rage and fire and venom he's made of only made me more determined to keep him all to myself. I found him. I sit back, drumming my fingers on the table. And I lost him again. Sal chuckles against the rim of his glass in between sips. "I like this dude. He sounds feisty." I narrow my eyes and he makes another amused sound in his throat. "Relax, I've hit my quota for unhinged twinks who are determined to make my life difficult." "Are my ears burning?" Dante's voice comes from over my shoulder. I hadn't even realized his set had ended, but there's another man on stage in his place now. Sal looks Dante up and down slowly, and the unhinged twink in question bares his teeth and flips my uncle his middle finger. "Actually, yes," Sal says. "I think your particular talents are exactly what Luca needs tonight." I choke on nothing but air and gape across the table. Sure, I must have misunderstood. No way am I about to accept a lap dance from my uncle's husband. "Is that so?" Dante purrs, putting his hands on my shoulders and leaning down so his hot breath ghosts over my earlobe. "Does the baby Moretti need a favor from little old me?" He nips at my ear and I jolt in my seat, more from the murderous look in Sal's eyes and the way his hand twitches for his gun than any actual pain from the bite. "Nope, I think I'm good." I jump out of my seat and anxiously smooth down my tie. "Sit," Sal commands, and I glance between him and Dante again, trying to decide the least dangerous course of action. Dante smirks and pats the chair. "Come on back, puppy. I won't let the grumpy boss man shoot you." I give a weak laugh and reluctantly sit back down. Thankfully, Dante stops fucking with Sal and pulls out a chair of his own. He crosses one leg over the other and looks between us with detached professional curiosity this time, like he's at a board meeting rather than at a strip club wearing nothing but a lace thong and a pair of knee-high boots. As I was saying, Sal says, I think you can really help Luca out with a little problem he's having. And that problem would be? Dante prompts, looking at me. I shake my head since I don't have the first clue how my uncle thinks Dante is going to help with any of this. Does he assume all sex workers in Wildcliff know each other? He needs to find someone, but it needs to stay off the Moretti radar, Sal explains. Dante's eyes darken. Is it the same kind of person you guys had me look into last time? Because I'm not sure. No, Sal says immediately. It's personal. Dante nods slowly and then licks his lips. Okay, I can do that then. He looks over at me again. It's going to cost you, obviously. Finally following the conversation, I shift forward in my seat eagerly. No problem. Dante snorts a laugh. I'm kidding, puppy. You can pay me back by coming by and making me coffee again one of these mornings. He pats my hand. I'm on shift for another hour. Then we can sit down and talk, and you can tell me who I'm hunting down for you. With that, Dante gets back up and sashays away. There you go. Sal stands up and straightens his suit, tucking his tablet and the envelope I gave him into his briefcase. He rounds the table and claps me on the shoulder. Don't say I never did you any favors, kid. Good luck. Once he's gone, I pull out my phone to check where the nearest ATM is. And while I'm at it, I take care of some other business I've been thinking about all day before tucking my phone away again.
Anders. The dusty smell of the rarely touched books in this section of the library tickles my nose. Tucked into the back corner of the medical science section with my back against the row of books on the bottom shelf and a psychology textbook open in my lap, this is the closest thing to a happy place I have in my life. My lips move silently as I eagerly read through a chapter about schizophrenia, drinking in the information like a parched man in the desert. It's almost as interesting as the chapter I read last week on bipolar disorder. Almost. Sometimes when I sneak away to hide here for the afternoon, I pretend everything about my life is nothing but a wild daydream I cooked up to make my boring life as a college student more exciting. If only. It's nearly impossible to disassociate like that today, though. Not with memories of last night running through my head on repeat. The look in Luca's eyes when I need him, the oddly gentle way he held me in place against the wall. Why didn't Luca just shoot me in the back while I ran away? It wouldn't have been that difficult, would it? Even in the dark, a few blind shots would have made sense. But here I am, still alive and kicking. For how long, though? I shift the textbook on my lap and chew on my bottom lip absently. He said he wanted to talk, but that had to be code for something, right? If he didn't want to kill me, surely Luca Moretti has to have another punishment in mind. Maybe he wants to pimp me out himself until he's satisfied that I've learned a lesson about stealing from him. I shiver at the thought, and my stomach twists itself in knots. The worst part of all of this is that my plan was to buy a new identity from the Morettis before leaving town. Clearly, that shot. I huff and let my head fall back against the shelf behind me, dragging my thumb over the glossy paper mindlessly as I consider my options. Is there any chance that if I return the money and his watch, Luca will be willing to laugh this whole thing off? There was a time when I would have been naive enough to believe that, but I've seen too much shit in my life now. Guys like him aren't content with breaking even. He'll want something to soothe his bruised ego, too. A memory of wiping the tear off his cheek while I fucked him flickers through my mind, and I rub the aching spot in my chest. The buzz of the alarm on my phone draws my attention to the time. I make a mental note of the page I'm on, then slide the book back into its spot on the shelf. Maybe once I get out of Wildcliff, I can enroll in some community college courses somewhere. It feels foolish and a little childish to dream of a better life, but I need something to hang on to. Fighting to protect Finn has kept me going this long, but once he's out of my dad's reach, I'm going to need to fight for myself. Until last night in that alley with Luca, I wasn't sure I even knew how. While I gather my stuff and get to my feet, I think about the other night in Luca's car, the way he described me, the fire he said he saw in me. I feel like his words woke up a strength inside that I didn't realize was there. It made me want to be the man he was describing, fierce and dangerous, the kind of man no one dares to fuck with. I pull my phone out of my pocket so I can turn off the alarm. A familiar notification pops up along the top, and I frown. Why would anyone be sending me money right now? I click on the little icon with the $sign on it, and the Cash App opens on my screen. My breath catches, and my knees quake as I read the transaction history once, twice, 3 times, trying to convince myself I'm misreading it. Luca M. has sent you money. $1,000. I scroll down just to make sure that it's not the same notification from the other night when we met at the bar, but no, this one is definitely new. I tighten my grip on my phone and dart a glance one way, then the other, as I hurry through the quiet stacks. The hair on the back of my neck prickles, and I feel like the unfortunate heroine in every over-the-top slasher movie that's ever existed. I pick up my pace until I'm practically sprinting, ignoring questioning looks from the librarians and other patrons as I flee towards the main door and burst out into the parking lot. Everything is quiet, but that doesn't do anything to convince my heartbeat to slow down. My phone vibrates again, and I yank it back out, fumbling it thanks to my trembling hands. It tumbles to the ground, and I stoop to pick it back up. When I press on the screen, there's another notification from the Cash App. I click it. And this time, instead of more money, the alert is telling me there's a note attached to the recent transaction. I squeeze my eyes closed for a half second, imagining a million terrifying things Luca might have typed out, from bone-chilling threats to a cinematic look behind you that would precede me turning around to find his gun pointed directly at my face. Finally, I gather my courage and open the note. I don't want anyone else touching you. If this isn't enough, tell me how much you need, and I'll make it happen. You're mine. XX. Heat rushes through me, and all the terror I felt seconds ago is swept away on a wave of indignant rage. I'm his? What the fuck? Who the hell does Luca Moretti think he is? I mean, besides the obvious. I huff and grip my teeth. Clicking on his profile, I create a transaction to send him $1 so I can attach a note of my own. Fuck you. It only takes a second before another $1,000 hits my account with another note attached. And here I thought I would have to beg. My lips twitch with a grin that I quickly smooth into a scowl, even though I don't think Luca can see me right now. I glance around the empty parking lot again just to make sure. I ignore the urge to respond again, even though adrenaline and an odd sense of excitement are pumping through me now instead of fear. What is Luca playing at? He said he wasn't into fucked-up head games, but I can't figure out what any of this means, if it isn't just a way to twist me up mentally before finishing the job. A petulant part of me wants to march my ass down to the warehouse district like I'd planned to tonight, just so I can spit in the face of Luca's command not to let anyone else touch me. But outside of the satisfaction of spiting him, there's no reason for me to put myself through that if I already have the money I need to take home later. I grin to myself as an even more fun, petty idea occurs to me. Luca sent me twice as much as I need. I could squirrel away the extra like usual, or I could spend his money on something way too indulgent, like treating myself to a fancy dinner and some new clothes. At least this way, I'll be well-fed and nicely dressed for the rest of whatever mindfuck he has planned for me. Chapter 7. Anders. Why don't you take your cheap ass and... I slam the door hard behind me, and whatever dear old dad was about to say about my cheap ass ends in a shatter of glass instead. A trickle of amber liquid spills under the door, and I shake my head. Wasting some of his own booze is sure to improve his mood. I roll my eyes and haul ass for the stairs before he can stumble his drunk ass over to the door to keep berating me. Fuck knows what even set him off tonight. Maybe in the depths of his pickled brain he can feel the ticking clock too, telling him his free ride is almost up. Seriously though, cheap? He's fucking dreaming if he thinks $1,000 per fuck is cheap. I huff and jog down the steps at a thunderous pace, not bothering to look back. When I hit the ground floor, something strange occurs to me. My heart isn't pounding, my palms aren't sweating, and my stomach isn't in knots. I'm not afraid of him anymore. Maybe it's because I'm exactly 18 days from never having to look at his ugly face again. Or maybe the threat of a stray fist is nothing compared to walking around with a target on my back, courtesy of the Morettis. I flip my middle fingers up over my shoulder on my way out the door, even though I'm positive the old man didn't make it past our own front door with the state he's in. I step out onto the sidewalk and then lean against the side of the building, considering my options for a few minutes. Do I want to risk going back to Wonderland tonight? Take my chances in the warehouse district? Some stupid part of me forces me to pull out my phone and double-check the Cash App just to make sure Luca didn't pay me again, but there's nothing new since he sent the second 1,000 last night. My heart wasn't racing when my dad shouted me out of the apartment, but it starts to pick up speed now. I'm not entirely sure the flutter in my gut at the thought of Luca is fear, though. At least, not entirely. A frustrated feeling sinks heavily into the pit of my stomach. I didn't expect Luca to just keep sending me money for nothing, of course. I still don't even understand why he did it yesterday. I can't believe I bought into that obnoxious "you're mine" bullshit. I'm not his. I'm fucking done belonging to anyone other than myself, and if he wants to test that theory, I'm happy to introduce my knee to his balls a second time. My affection-starved brain serves me up an array of other things I could do to Luca's balls that would probably be more mutually enjoyable. I growl under my breath and shake the thought off. Warehouse district it is tonight. I'm only 50-50 that Luca is planning to kill me at this point, but I'm not sure what I'll do if I see him again, so I'd rather not risk it. Before I can shove my phone into my pocket and head to the nearest bus stop, it buzzes with an incoming message. Finn. And you around? A stone sinks in my stomach. Anders. What's wrong, Finny? You drunk? I know he is. Misspelled texts are a dead giveaway, and so is the fact that his message was so short. He knows I hate it when he drinks, given our dad's issues, but he's in college, so I get that he's going to let loose on occasion, especially when I'm sure everyone is in party mode with graduation so close. Finn. I don't know. I had one drink, but I don't feel good. Fuckity-fuck, I hiss, tapping my foot against the sidewalk for half a second before making up my mind. Anders. Sit tight. Don't leave with anyone. I'll be there as soon as I can. I don't have the patience to fuck with the bus right now when someone likely slipped my brother something, so I order a ride and then spend the next 3 minutes pacing back and forth until the car pulls up. It's a 20-minute ride to campus, and I spend the entire time with my eyes glued to my screen, watching Finn's location to make sure it doesn't move. I'm not sure whether I'm radiating anxious energy or if my driver is usually a twitchy guy, but every time I look up, he's checking his rearview mirror like he's afraid we're being followed. Maybe he pissed off the Morettis too. Not my problem. What is my problem is that Finn's location marker starts to move when we're about 3 minutes away. Shit, I mutter. You see that too? I'm not being paranoid, right? The driver asks. What? I frown, not even looking up from my phone to figure out what the hell he's talking about. The plastic edges bite into my fingers, and I gnaw on my bottom lip, watching the dot move slowly away from the frat house where I'm assuming the party was. Nothing, the driver mutters. Stop, I shout when I see Finn's dot veer off. I'm as close as I'm going to get in a car. He slams on the brakes, and I'm out of the car before it's even come to a full stop. Thanks, I shout over my shoulder. I have no clue if I close the car door behind me or not, but I do make a mental note to tip the guy and give him 5 stars once I find my brother. Holding up my phone to watch his moving location, I jog down the well-lit sidewalk, ignoring the questioning looks of the students I pass. The street lamps that line the sidewalk get more sparse near the dorms, leaving dark alleys between some of the buildings. Hey, don't, I hear Finn slur. Shh, relax, baby. Another deep voice answers, and I see red. My phone clatters out of my hand, and my bag bounces against my thigh as I sprint towards the voices, my teeth clenched and my adrenaline raging. They come into view in the darkness. The fucker who drugged him, or at best saw Finn stumbling drunk and decided to take advantage, has him up against the wall with his hands all over my brother. Finn's arms hang limp at his sides like he's already given up trying to push this asshole off of him. He said, "Don't," I grit out between my teeth, launching myself at the man without hesitation. I land on his back, and he shouts in surprise, letting go of Finn and spinning in an attempt to dislodge me. My brother slumps, sliding down the wall, and I wrap my arm around the fucker's throat from behind. He claws at my arm, but with the adrenaline pumping through my veins, I can't feel a thing other than blind, throbbing rage. I tighten my grip, and he makes a gasping sound before his knees buckle. I come down right on top of him, the cement of the sidewalk scraping against my knees and my forearm hard enough for me to register a faint sting. I let go of his throat and grab a handful of his hair instead, yanking his head back and smashing it into the sidewalk once, twice, a third time. My chest heaves, and all I can think about is destroying the person who dared to put his hands on my little brother. "Anders," Finn's voice cuts through the fog of rage, and I realize the man is whimpering underneath me. "Stop! Don't kill him." My lungs burn, but I force myself to slow my breathing and untangle my fingers from the man's hair. "Fine. I won't kill him," I growl. I'm shaking from head to toe as I get to my feet. I feel like I want to scream and cry and kick the shit out of this fucking loser all at once. There's still too much of this rage inside me with nowhere to go. The thought of kissing Luca roughly, pinning him down, and fucking out all this anger and adrenaline flits through my mind and heats my body. I drag in a trembling breath and force myself to focus on Finn. I hurry over to him and crouch down. "Can you stand?" I ask, doing a quick visual assessment of him in the dark. Other than his shirt being askew, his clothes appear to all be in place, so far as I can tell. I got here before anything horrible could happen. He nods, and then pushes against the wall, trying and failing to get to his feet. I grab his arm and help him up. "There you go," I say softly, slipping under his arm to keep him steady. 5 years younger than me, and a good head taller. Finn has outweighed me by a good 50 to 100 pounds since his mid-teen years, but that's never stopped me from feeling protective of him. He's too sweet for all this shit. "Thanks, Annie," he mumbles, and I chuckle. "You know you're the only person I wouldn't fight for calling me that, right?" "Mm-hmm," he hums and chuckles, leaning into me and letting me lead him out from between the buildings. I stop under the first light and cast my eyes around in search of my phone. I don't see anything, though. "Fuck," I groan. "Some asshole stole my phone." Finn grumbles. "Yeah, exactly," I mutter. "Fuck, I should probably get you to the hospital. Who knows what that loser slipped you?" "Hospital's expensive," he argues. I sigh. I know, but... I bite down on my already tender lip and consider the options. I could stay here with him tonight to keep an eye on him. Of course, that means missing out on a night of work, plus however much I end up having to shell out for a new phone, too. Either way, this is going to be an expensive night. The sound of footsteps has me tensing. Finn lifts his head and smiles. "Reg, there you are." He tries to stumble away from me to greet the two dudes coming down the sidewalk towards us. "Fuck, there you are. We've been trying to find you for half an hour." Reg, or whatever his name is, hurries the last few steps to catch Finn before he can fall. "You his friends?" I ask, glaring at each of them. "Yeah," the other one answers. "Where the fuck were you? That prick had his hands—" I bite down on the inside of my cheek and wave towards the alley, unable to bring myself to say what exactly he was trying to do to my brother. For their part, they both look stricken. "Shit," Reg mutters. "I'll fucking kill him," the other dude growls. I wave them off. "It's been taken care of. I'm just trying to decide whether he needs the hospital or just some sleep before he wakes up with the worst hangover of his life." "We can sit up and keep an eye on him," Reg says. I glare again. "We'll keep a better eye this time," the other one promises. "We didn't think he would take off like that." I chew on my lip a little longer and finally nod. Fine. Don't hesitate to take him to the hospital if you need to. My number is in his phone, and I'll have a new one by tomorrow, so make sure he calls me as soon as he's conscious. Got it, Reg says, and his other friend nods in agreement. I put my hands on Finn's face and wait for his eyes to focus on me for a second. Your friends are going to take care of you. Call me as soon as you wake up, okay? He nods and mumbles in agreement. I kiss his forehead and then give his friends one last hard look. I should have asked to use one of their phones to call myself a ride back to the city, but they're long gone by the time I realize I'm shit out of luck. Waiting for the bus is going to be my only option. I grumble and huff to myself, hitching my bag more comfortably on my shoulder and starting for the nearest bus stop. I make it as far as the main road through campus before a familiar car catches my eye. The silver BMW is parked next to the curb. The car itself doesn't look nearly as out of place as the man leaning against it, though.
Luca. Anders stops on the sidewalk a few feet away from me, his face carefully blank even though I can see a smear of blood on his knuckle and scrapes on both of his knees. I got to the alley just as the man, I'm assuming Anders' brother, was telling him not to kill the man on the ground. I would have happily done it for him, but I'm not sure Anders would have appreciated it, and right now, I'm still trying to get on his good side. Or whichever side I need to be on to convince him to turn all that heat and passion in my direction again. I pull his phone out of my pocket and hold it out. He eyes it for a second and then takes the last few steps between us to snatch it out of my hand. You're stalking me now? A flicker of fire in his eyes melts the indifference off of his face and makes my cock slowly start to swell. If you want to get technical about it, I smirk. I found your address and was just pulling up when I saw you hop in the car. So you followed me, he concludes, crossing his arms. I told you, I want to talk. Anders' cheek twitches and he looks around for a second like he's hoping to see an easy escape route. Or maybe checking to see if I brought backup. What's to talk about? I can't give your watch back, I already pawned it. I'd return your money, but it's gone. He licks his lips and drops his crossed arms, straightening his shoulders to stare me down with a bold glint in his expression. I'm done being pimped out, so I think that covers what you could possibly want from me. Either shoot me, or let's chalk this up to a funny story and move on with our lives. I stutter a laugh and shove my hands into my pockets to keep myself from reaching for him. The comment about being pimped out doesn't go unnoticed, though. It sits bitterly in my throat for several long seconds. Dante wasn't able to get me a hell of a lot of information on Anders except that he graduated top of his class but never went to college. His mom died 8 years ago when he was 20, leaving him and his younger brother Phineas with their father. Outside of his address, phone number, and socials, that was it. I want to ask who's been hurting him. Whoever it is, I can guarantee they'll know the meaning of pain when I'm finished with them. I bite my tongue so hard I taste blood to keep myself from demanding answers. Now isn't the time. I pull my phone out of my pocket and send him another payment through the Cash App. I can hear the gentle buzz of his phone and his jaw ticks. So talk is just code for wanting another taste of me, he scoffs. You want to buy my ass like everyone else. He shakes his head and then fixes his eyes on mine. They're full of that predatory, nearly unhinged rage that first caught my attention at Wonderland. Not tonight, I say. Tonight I want to buy you dinner and talk. But of course I'm going to pay for your time. I wouldn't want your... I clench my jaw and measure the next word before I speak it. Employer to get on you about missed income. Anders weighs his phone in his hand while he seems to consider the offer. Then he takes another step forward, bringing us toe-to-toe. He brushes his hair off of his forehead with one hand, wrapping the other around my tie. My breath catches and my cock surges harder. He yanks on my tie and I stumble to close the last inch between us. The fact that Anders is just as likely to pull a switchblade and embed it in my guts as he is to kiss me has my pulse singing and my heart racing. Lucky for me, it's his mouth on mine that punches the air out of my lungs instead of a blade. The kiss is just as biting and harsh as the first time, more teeth than lips. His tongue rough and demanding as it coaxes mine out and then lashes it away between one breath and the next. I can taste the metallic tang of his blood on his abused bottom lip. I moan around his tongue and melt into the punishment of the kiss until he shoves me back again. I was really fucking hoping that wasn't as good as I remembered, he mutters, then reaches for the passenger door handle. Fine. Take me to dinner and make me an offer I can't refuse. Chapter 8. Luca. I reach into the glove compartment, nudging aside the extra pistol I keep right next to the car manual, and grab a handful of napkins. For your knees, I say, handing them over to Anders. He blinks down at his scraped skin with a look of mild surprise, then takes the napkins and chuckles. What's funny? He dabs at the already drying blood, not making much of an impact with the dry napkins, and shrugs in response to my question. I don't know. There was just something really funny about the visual of you pulling up to a drive-thru in your BMW and buying a little box of 99-cent chicken nuggets, then stuffing all the leftover napkins into your glove compartment like a normal person. I am a normal person. Anders snorts and then gives up on trying to clean himself up, wadding up the napkin and tossing it onto the floor by his feet. I glance over and arch an eyebrow, and he stares back with defiance, a smile spreading slowly over his lips. My cock throbs and my lips tingle with the memory of the kiss. So, what are we eating? Cannoli? He cackles at his own joke and my lips twitch with a smile. I like him feral and defiant, but relaxed and snarky might be my favorite. 99-cent chicken nuggets, I deadpan, and he laughs again. As we leave campus behind, I run through a mental list of places I'd like to take him before deciding on one. I'm glad you're not convinced I'm going to kill you anymore, I say, rather than answering his question. I see his shoulders twitch out of the corner of my eye. Not sure I'm convinced, but if you're going to stalk me anyway, running isn't going to do me much good. I decided it's better to face death head on if it's coming for me. A surge of pride and affection fills my chest. You strike me as the type to face most things head on. He's quiet for several seconds, like he's considering the assessment, and then he clears his throat. Most things, he agrees, but there's something underneath it I can't quite figure out. Guilt, maybe. I manage to find parking less than a block from our destination. Anders jumps out the second the car stops, and I half expect him to bolt like he did before. But he lingers on the sidewalk, alternating between curling his arms around himself and shooting defiant glares at random passers-by. I doubt I'm dressed for any place fancy, he says as soon as I get out. I rake my gaze over him, noting the road rash on his knees again before taking in the rest of him. He's wearing a tight white t-shirt tonight, the fabric so sheer I can see the darker outline of his nipples through it, and a pair of tight shorts that leave his toned thighs on full display and hug his bouncy ass just right. We're not going somewhere fancy, I assure him, coming around the car to stop right in front of him. He doesn't give up an inch of space, tilting his head to look up at me when I close in on him. I bring my hand to his face and graze my thumb over the smooth curve of his jaw. And if we were, I can assure you that as long as you're with me, no one is going to give you any trouble. Why? Because you'll shoot them if they do? He arches an eyebrow, the look in his eyes too cool and controlled to give away how he feels about that possibility. I dip my head to bring my face closer to his. If I have to, I answer. Anders shivers, and for a second the impassivity slips from his eyes again, and they dance with excitement. He pulls himself back together and licks his lips. Our mouths are so close that I can feel the heat of his tongue even though it doesn't quite brush my lips. Why? He asks. That's the question of the fucking century, isn't it? Why? Why Anders? Why am I so damn smitten with a man I barely know? Chemistry, perhaps? Good old-fashioned attraction? Why does it have to be more complicated than that? I can tell that's not going to be good enough for him, though. Not when someone's been working hard to make him feel helpless and useless. It sounds like you finally found something left we have to talk about, I say lightly, letting my hand fall from his jaw. I smirk when he huffs, and then I jerk my chin in the direction we're headed, and Anders leads the way. I reach out and tug him to a stop in front of my favorite hole-in-the-wall diner, the smell of greasy onion rings and grilled meat wafting out to make my mouth water. I hold the door open for Anders, and he doesn't say anything as I greet the hostess by name and thank her after she leads us to my usual booth in the back corner. When we're alone again, he glances around and then opens his menu. So I'm guessing the man you were defending was your brother. His head whips up, and the predatory look I've loved in his eyes before has absolutely nothing on the feral way he bares his teeth, his whole body tensing as he digs his fingers into the table like he's seconds from vaulting over it to throttle me. My cock thickens against my thigh again, and my breath catches. Don't fucking talk about him. Don't think about him. He doesn't have anything to do with any of this, Anders hisses. He doesn't know how you've made your money in the past? I wait a beat to see if he's going to pick up on the implication that he's done selling himself, if he's going to fight me on that too. But he just keeps glaring at me, his chest heaving. No. And he won't. His eyes bore into mine and the heat in my gut spreads. I'm the one who stole from you, so whatever you need to settle that, it's going to come from me. If you go anywhere near him. He swallows hard, and then the look in his eyes turns to pure steel. I'll fucking kill you. My cock jerks, and a quiet moan vibrates in my throat. Christ, Anders, if you keep up with the dirty talk, I'm going to embarrass myself. Lust and confusion wore on his face. You're really not going to hurt me, are you? He asks, cocking his head and pulling his eyebrows together. No, I say simply. By the way, the chicken and waffles here will change your life. Anders blinks, sputters a laugh, then closes his menu. Chicken and waffles it is.
Anders. After the waiter comes by to take our order, I shift in my seat and look around the diner, mostly because it's less awkward than staring silently at Luca. What kind of small talk are you supposed to make with the mafioso you fucked to tears and then robbed? So, what kind of movies do you like? He asks. I chuckle. Movies? Really? What would you rather talk about? My mind goes blank, and I realize it's been a really long time since anyone has asked me anything like that. The only way my dad communicates is through insults and violence. Believe it or not, my clients don't tend to want to make small talk, and as much as I love Finn, he mostly just wants to talk about his own shit. It's better that way, though. It's easier to lie to him about my life if I don't have to talk about it at all. Mindless action movies, I say. I just want to turn my brain off and watch shit blow up. Luca grins, and there's something so disarming and unguarded about the way the smile lights up his face that it makes me want to kiss him and kick him in the shin at the same time. It's fun to watch shit blow up. I've always been a big fan of over-the-top slasher flicks, too. They're just so campy and ridiculous, it's hard to hate them. I nod and lean forward an inch. Have you ever seen Chopping Mall? It's 80s slasher movie perfection. Hell yes. Dude Bro Party Massacre 3 is probably my favorite. It's more of a parody, but it's so damn stupid and amazing, it's become a comfort watch for me. I laugh, trying to imagine him in a pair of cozy flannel pajamas, eating popcorn and watching a stupid murder movie all by himself in the dark. I haven't seen that one, I admit. I'll have to put it on my list. Saying it out loud makes me think about the not-too-distant future, just a few weeks from now when I'll be somewhere else. I'll be someone else. Our food comes, and Luca was right. It's the best chicken and waffles I've ever had. While we eat, we talk about more delightfully bad movies, and for a little while, it almost feels like we're two normal guys on a first date, instead of a pair of criminals doing... what, sizing each other up? I'm not quite sure, honestly. He pays for the meal when we're done, and a sliver of guilt niggles at the back of my mind over the lie I told him. It's not like it was a big lie. Technically, I still have the money I took from him, but I know I need it more than he does. Shouldn't that count for something? You never answered my question, I remind him on our walk back to his car. His hand rests on my lower back, the same way it did when he led me out of Wonderland the other night. Claiming without being pushy and controlling, comforting, even though I know who he is now. Which question is that? Why? I ask, just like I did earlier. Why take me to dinner? Why track me down if you aren't planning to kill me? I stop when we reach his car, turning to look at him. Why pick me up in the first place? I'm sure there are plenty of nice guys in this city who would trip over themselves to have your attention. Luca's mouth draws into a smirk, and he brings a hand up to my face, dragging his thumb along my bottom lip. I part them and dart my tongue out to tease the soft indents of his fingerprint, holding his gaze and waiting for him to answer my question. I don't want a nice guy, Anders. I thought I'd made that pretty clear by now. I nip at his fingertip, and his eyes smolder with lust. I wait for the usual disdain to ice my veins, but it doesn't come. The way Luca looks at me feels different from anyone else, and that should probably scare me a hell of a lot more than it does. Why me? I repeat, adding a little more force behind the words. I don't want him to keep dodging this. Am I an exotic pet you're hoping you can tame? I catch the full tip of his thumb between my teeth and bite down a little harder, watching his pupils dilate as he hisses through his teeth. Or do you think I need saving? Because if it's that one, don't waste your time and energy. I'm already saving myself. I have no doubt about that, my little viper, he hums, shoving his thumb in again when I let up with my teeth, pressing it against my tongue. But I don't think I have an answer that's going to satisfy you. I saw you at Wonderland, and I could tell that none of the men who were clamoring for your attention were going to be able to appreciate you. Something about the look in your eyes made me want to show you the side of myself I've never trusted anyone else with. My heart beats faster, and I wrap my hand around his wrist to pull his thumb out of my mouth, dragging the damp digit down my chin, my throat, all the way to the V-shaped dip in the collar of my t-shirt. And what do you expect to happen now? Are you planning to pay me my nightly fee indefinitely to keep everyone else's hands off of me? It might be cheaper just to buy me outright, keep me locked up in a tower like a princess where no one can touch me but you. It'll be like a promotion. Instead of getting turned out, I'll be a sex slave just for you. My voice gets lower and deadlier with every word, my grip on Luca's wrist tightening until I'm sure I'm grabbing him hard enough to leave bruises, but he doesn't so much as flinch. I was thinking more along the lines of boyfriend, but we can bicker about the title later, he says calmly. I let go of him and yank my hand back like I've been burned. My throat tightens and I try to laugh, but embarrassingly it comes out sounding a lot more like a sob. Fuck off, I mutter. He advances on me again, backing me up against his car, the cool exterior making the bare skin on my legs prickle. I love that acid tongue of yours, little viper, he murmurs, bracing his hands on the hood of the car and leaning in to nuzzle his nose against mine. Then he reaches over and pulls open the passenger door. Get in. I'm taking you home. I glare at him and give him a small shove for good measure, even though my pulse is racing and my cock is harder than it's ever been. For a man who claims not to get off on head games, he's fucking good at them. Once we're both in the car, he pulls away from the curb, and I start to give him directions back to my place. I don't need them. He waves me off. Oh, right. I forgot you stalked me, I mutter. I was checking on you, not stalking you, Luca says. But that's not why I don't need directions. Oh? I'm taking you back to my place. I sputter a scoff. Excuse me? Stalking and kidnapping? Are you fucking serious right now? Kidnapping? That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? I twist in my seat to glare at him. Then take me home. His jaw ticks, and his grip tightens on the steering wheel. We slow to a stop at a red light, and he turns his head to look at me. Look me in the eye and tell me you're safe there, and I'll take you back. The lie forms readily on my lips, but my mouth goes dry, and my throat tightens before I can spit it out. I open and close my mouth a few times, and a knowing, cocky smile twitches on Luca's lips, then vanishes. That's what I thought. He turns his attention back to the road. The way he can switch between whimpering, submissive, begging to be hurt, and deadly, confident mafioso in the blink of an eye is enough to give me whiplash, and, unfortunately, a massive erection. I growl with frustration and petulantly kick the dashboard. "Be careful," he scolds. "Take me home, or so help me God, I will—" The wheels inside my head spin, trying to come up with a plausible threat to level at him. Luca hums low in his throat and slides one hand between his thighs to cup the thick bulge of his cock. "Tell me." The pleading in his voice solidifies the molten heat inside of me and washes away the panicked need to escape that was clawing at the inside of my chest just seconds ago. He flies past the last turn that will take us towards my part of town, and I settle back in my seat with my arms crossed. I guess you're going to find out.
Chapter 9. Luca. The thrill of Anders' threat, promise, keeps my dick rock hard the rest of the drive home. This time when I pull up to the curb and he jumps out before I've even put it in park, I'm not the least bit worried that he's going to run. I get why he needs to bare his teeth a little and put up a good show of resistance. I think I understand it more than he realizes. He's felt out of control for so long that he needs to feel like he's taking it back. And I'm more than happy to let him take all of his rage and frustration out on my ass, or any other part of me he has the urge to sink his teeth into. I take my time unbuckling my seatbelt and stepping out of my car while Anders stands on the sidewalk, his arms crossed again, anger flickering in his eyes and a hard set to his jaw. I straighten my tie needlessly, unable to resist working him up just a little more. If this is a kidnapping, you just passed up the perfect opportunity to make a run for it. I smirk and tilt my head as I come around the car to join him on the sidewalk. Or is it only fun if you get the chance to knee me in the balls first? His lips twitch with a grin and he drops his arms, standing up a little bit taller and meeting my eye with that glint of defiance that makes my cock drip and my balls tingle. It's like you said, home isn't safe anyway. What's the point in wasting my energy running away from one monster right back into the arms of another? The blood in my veins turns to ice and I grab Anders by the jaw with a low growl. You really think I'm a monster just like he is? He's silent for a beat, his gaze boring into mine, the muscle in his cheek ticking. No, I don't think you're like him. Anders jerks out of my light grasp. I let my hand fall and tilt my head towards the building right in front of us. He jogs up the steps and doesn't say a word while I unlock the door. Out of the corner of my eye, I see him shifting on his feet, his expression fluttering between worry and anger just like earlier. If I remove the problem for him, will his fear and wariness eventually melt away, leaving nothing but the beautifully feral, confident man he is when his mask slips? I'll destroy this entire city with my bare hands if that's what it'll take to bring that version of Anders to the surface. I'll kill him for you, I say casually, opening the door to my apartment and waving him inside. Anders stops just inside the door, spinning to face me with his jaw clenched and a wild, frustrated look in his eyes. You cannot be fucking serious right now. He advances on me and gives me a hard shove in the chest, pushing me up against the closed door. You get how fucked up this is, right? I frown, not sure I'm following. He huffs out a laugh and curls his fingers around the lapels of my suit jacket. I tied you up and robbed you, and you've gone and imprinted on me like a psychotic goose or something. You want to save me? You want to kill everyone responsible for fucking up my life? What's next? Are you going to follow me around and shoot anyone who gives me a dirty look? The same frustration that's in his eyes drips from every word, but with each one, he tightens his grip on my jacket and leans in closer until he's pressed fully against me, baring his teeth less than an inch away from my lips. Sure, I answer with a rasp. I'll clear my schedule. Anders snarls and slams his lips into mine in a harsh, biting kiss. I melt against the door, hooking my index fingers through the belt loops on his shorts and opening wider to welcome the lash of his tongue against mine. He lets go of my jacket and drags his fingers through my hair, yanking on the ends and sending a skitter of stinging electricity through my scalp and down my spine. He uses the grip to tug me away from the door. I stumble forward and moan around the tangle of our tongues. Pre-cum dribbles down my shaft, dampening the inside of my briefs, and my balls give a heavy squeeze as he drags me blindly down the short hallway into the small living room. He breaks the kiss, his chest heaving, and looks around. Light from adjacent buildings illuminates my living room even without me flipping any switches. It's not perfect, but it's enough for him to drag his gaze over the various shadowed furniture and decor. It's smaller than I expected, he murmurs, his fingers still firmly knotted in my hair, forcing me to bend towards him. I'm not sure he's even doing it on purpose, but it makes my cock throb all the same. I smirk at the underlying implication that he's been thinking about my apartment, picturing it enough to have formed an expectation in the last 2 days. But I decide not to point that out. I've been spending way too much money on this gorgeous rent boy recently. But I expect my budget is about to loosen up a bit, if you're attached to the idea of upgrading. His eyes flash and he tugs my hair harder again, sending me to my knees. The hardwood sends a jolt of pain through me when I land, but it only makes me whimper with need. I sway forward and nuzzle my face into the warm, hard bulge in his shorts. The musky scent of his skin and sweat is muted by the smell of denim, but if I breathe deeply enough, I'm still able to fill my lungs with his intoxicating smell. I mouth at the rough material, work my tongue into the zipper flap, and lick teasingly along his length. The sharp edges of the zipper and the taste of metal aren't enough to sate the insatiable hunger making my mouth water and my whole ache to be filled. That's right, Anders says coolly. You paid tonight, didn't you? I guess that means my ass is yours. What's your pleasure, Mr. Moretti? With my hands on my thighs, I tilt my head and look up at him. There isn't an angle of Anders I haven't enjoyed yet, but this one might be my favorite. I can practically feel the heat of his erection coming through his shorts, my scalp tingling and stinging from his grip as he looks down at me. The only problem is the detached indifference is back in his eyes again. That money wasn't for sex, little viper, I murmur, mouthing at his cock again, desperate for the taste of his skin instead of the rasp of denim on my tongue. It was to protect you from the person who's been hurting you until I get the chance to deal with him properly. His fingers twitch in my hair and his breath hitches. I keep feeling like this is some kind of trap. I just can't figure out what your angle is, he confesses. There's no trap. But if you need time to believe that, I understand. In the meantime, I think you promised me some kind of retribution for kidnapping you. So what's it going to be? Do you want to hurt me? Use me and leave me unsatisfied? Tie me up again and rob me blind of every item you can carry out of my apartment? What's it going to take, Anders? Do your worst.
Anders. The rawness in Luca's voice and the startling vulnerability in his words tug at the threads of my control that I've barely managed to hold together over the past few years. Embarrassment and rage, and the inky black feeling of powerlessness churn inside of me. I hardly notice that my breathing is getting heavier, or that my vision blurs with tears that threaten to spill down my cheeks. All I can really think about is that I honestly can't remember the last time anyone bothered to ask me what I wanted, what it would take to satisfy me. And fuck, that's a scary goddamn question because the answer is too fucking big. What would it take to satisfy me? Knowing Finn is really and truly safe from our father and anyone else who would ever be stupid enough to hurt him, that would satisfy me. Finally having a life of my own where I decide who looks at me and who touches me, that would be pretty fucking satisfying. Finding an outlet for the unspent adrenaline and swirling emotions tonight has caused would feel pretty damn satisfying too. That might be the only one I can tackle right now, and it's probably the only one I'd prefer to let Luca help me with. The rest are problems for me to solve another day. I release my hold on his hair and wrap my hand around his throat in a fluid motion. I can feel the vibration of his gasp against my palm as it works its way up his windpipe. His eyes widen with lust and excitement as I tackle him backward onto the polished wood floor. I cut off his surprised yelp with another hard kiss, shoving my tongue between his lips as soon as I land on top of him, straddling him, pinning him to the ground with the weight of my body. Maybe he could easily throw me off, but knowing he won't makes me feel powerful anyway. I thrust my hips and grind my cock against his, teasing us both with the muted feeling of too many clothes still between us. Luca grunts and moans around my tongue, each sound rattling against my palm where it's pressed to his throat. I'm not grabbing him hard enough to cut off his oxygen, but the way he pushes himself into my hand, I think he'd be into it if I wanted to. Is this what I like? Is this what I'm into? I yank his shirt open impatiently, getting a primal kind of satisfaction from the sound of buttons skittering across the floor. With one hand still around his throat, I kiss and bite his chin, his jaw, the parts of his throat that aren't covered by my hand, drawing rasping whimpers from him with every sharp nip of my teeth. His body jolts under me, his cock throbbing so hard I can feel it pulsing against mine, even with so much fabric still between us. The way this hard, intimidating man turns into a submissive puddle at the first sign of any bite is intoxicating. It's addicting. And yeah, I think I might be into it. Knowing that somehow Luca looked at me across a bar and saw things about me no one else ever has, that he managed to unlock things I didn't even know about myself, is terrifying. It's even more terrifying than the fact that I can feel the hard shape of a gun tucked under his jacket, or that I think I'm actually starting to believe he isn't going to hurt me. I drag my blunt nails down the center of his bare chest, his shirt hanging half open, his tie tugged loose but mostly still in place. Following the faint, raised marks with my tongue, I watch the way neediness and pleasure contort his face, his hips bucking up to meet mine again. I push his shirt open wider and paint his chest glossy with my saliva, moaning softly at the clean citrus taste of his skin. When I reach his taut nipple with my tongue, I draw wet circles around the darkened nub, waiting for him to relax into the feeling. As soon as he does, I clamp my teeth down hard around it. Luca howls, his body bowing underneath me. "Fuck, Anders," he pants, threading his fingers through my hair and pressing the sensitive flesh harder into my teeth. "It hurts so good." My cock throbs and twitches eagerly with the power and dizzying lust that rushes through me. I tug his nipple roughly and then release it with an obscenely wet sound. He hisses and whimpers as I give it a few stiff flicks with the tip of my tongue. "How else can I make you howl and cry for me, baby?" I purr, kissing my way across the plane of his chest to the other nipple. "You want me to spank your ass? With my hand? With a flogger?" I don't know where these words are even coming from. I know next to nothing about kink except what I've seen in porn, but I guess enough of it seeped into my subconscious to keep my lips moving with the filthy ideas I didn't realize I was saving up. "You want my hand around your throat hard enough to make you dizzy, gasping for deeper breaths and knowing I'm the one who decides when you get them?" I tighten my grip around his throat just a little and bite down on his other nipple the same way I did with the first one. Luca groans and digs his fingers into my thighs. Even in the dim light, I can see the flush on his face and the sweat forming on his forehead. His eyes are half-lidded and hazy, with a faraway look of pleasure, but they're fixed on me like he's afraid I'll disappear if he looks away. He uses his grip as leverage to grind against me faster with needy little jerks of his hips. I bring my mouth back to his lips parted with heavy breaths and a stream of babble and whimpers. I catch his bottom lip between my teeth with a rough nip. "No," I say firmly, and to my surprise, he freezes. Another wave of adrenaline surges through my veins, so intense my body trembles with it. One little word, and he just stopped. His fingers twitch against my thighs as he bites back a needy sound, and for a few seconds we just stare at each other. I tentatively draw my tongue along the damp swell of his abused bottom lip, and he still doesn't move. He lets out a breathy sigh, but his body stays still. "You meant it, didn't you?" I murmur in a bit of an odd stupor, still trying to realign my entire worldview with whatever's happening right now. "What would you do if I told you I changed my mind? What if I said I'm not in the mood to fuck?" The steady pulse of my cock, pressed hard up against his, makes the question seem laughable, but I have to know. "I would go take a very long shower and jerk off so hard that I would probably sprain something." I choke on a laugh. "You're serious, aren't you?" I shake my head, then press a soft kiss to his mouth this time, drawing another gasp from him with the gentle pressure of it. "I'm serious," Luca says. I've already decided you're mine, little viper, but that doesn't mean I want to own you. The last thing I want is to have you broken or tamed. I love the sting of your bite too much. I want you to want this as badly as I do, to feel like you'll fucking choke without it." He wraps his arms around me and crushes me to him. Our mouths crash together in another kiss that's just as rough as the earlier ones, but something has shifted inside of me. I graze my teeth over his lips and tongue, but instead of a burning need to punish him in place of everyone who's ever hurt me, it's just so I can hear him moan my name. I take my hand off of his throat and reach down to undo my shorts without breaking the kiss. Luca feeds me muffled pleas around our knotted tongues as I wiggle on top of him, shimmying my shorts down around my thighs to free my cock. Pre-cum drools from my slit, wetting the silky front of his pants, the heat of his arousal pulsing through the soft fabric against my bare skin. I grab his jaw and break the kiss to nuzzle the tip of my nose against his, a wicked smile stretching my lips. "I'm going to choke you with my cock, and then, if you're very good, and if I'm feeling generous, I'm going to fuck your tight, slutty hole until you come screaming my name." "Yes," he groans. I wiggle my fingers into my scrunched pocket to pull out a condom I stuffed there earlier and hold it up. "Do you want me to put this on before you suck me? I get tested regularly and I'm on prep." Luca shakes his head. "I want to taste you." I moan in agreement and drop the condom on the floor next to him. It's impossible to get my shorts all the way off in this position. I put a hand on his chest and give him a stern look. "Stay," I command. Then I wobble to my feet. Standing over him, I take a second just to enjoy the view. He's disheveled, his clothes tugged loose and wrinkled. His lips are puffy from my rough treatment, and so are his glistening wet nipples. There are dark spots already forming on his chest and collarbone where I bit down too hard or sucked on his skin too long. My cock gives an eager throb, and I slowly strip my shirt over my head and toss it aside. My shorts are already wedged around my thighs, leaving my cock swinging, but I work them the rest of the way down, taking my time and enjoying the way Luca watches the pendulous sway of my erection with a hungry look in his eyes. I catch a dribble of pre-cum on my index finger and lean over to smear it across his lips like gloss. His eyes flutter and his hips jerk, his tongue immediately darting out to taste the sweet flavor of my excitement. I kick my shorts aside and then reposition myself, so this time, when I sink to my knees, my aching cock bumps his warm, wet lips. I grab a handful of his hair again, and Luca's mouth opens wide on a low moan. I shove my cock between his lips without hesitation. As soon as the hot suction of his mouth closes around me, I let out a keening sound in the back of my throat. It's been so fucking long since anyone has sucked me that my balls tighten instantly and electricity dances along the base of my spine. "Oh, fuck," I grunt, snapping my hips forward. Luca gags, the muscles of his throat spasming tight around my cock. "Sorry." I grip my teeth and force myself to stop grinding against his tongue. I start to pull back, but his hands land on my ass cheeks, and a hungry defiance sparks in his eyes. He jerks me forward again, holding my gaze as he gags around my cock a second time. Tears trickle from the corners of his eyes, and drool pools on his chin, but he sucks me around the spasm of his throat, making wet, filthy, greedy sounds with every fresh wave of suction. "Fuck," I groan again, falling forward and bracing my hands on the cool wood floor. My hips move of their own will, and I fill Luca's throat over and over again. He sputters and gags each time, but his fingers dig harder into my ass cheeks, spurring me on. I reach down to wrap my hand around his throat again, just to feel the way it bulges with every deep thrust and tightens with every gag. My balls tingle and my cock swells, and I pull out of his mouth with a breathless sob. Luca gulps down greedy breaths underneath me in between nuzzling and kissing my dripping wet cock. "Pants down and roll over," I command, my legs trembling as I crawl off of him and grab the condom off the floor. He does exactly as I say while I put it on and fish the packet of lube out of the other pocket of my discarded shorts. I squirt the contents onto my sheathed cock and wrap one hand around my shaft to spread it around, jerking myself slowly as I turn back to face him. Luca is the fucking picture of perfection. His pants down around his ankles, his legs spread as wide as they'll go with the shackle of them, his hips tilted up eagerly. He has one hand underneath himself, and he's looking back at me as he jerks himself slowly. I draw back my clean hand and give him a hard smack on the ass, reveling in the sting of it against my palm and the low, gut-deep moan he lets out as his ass cheek pinks up and jiggles. "Hands off," I growl. "Come hands-free, or don't come at all." He whimpers and shoves his hips higher, begging wordlessly for my cock. Will I really be cruel enough to leave him with blue balls if he doesn't finish? I'm not sure yet, but the thrill of knowing he would let me, that he would go to sleep with his balls aching and his cock hard because I fucking told him to, is almost enough to make me come untouched. I grab his ass cheeks and part them, hastily smearing the leftover lube on my fingers around his hole before lining up the head of my cock. He makes another desperate sound, and I shove inside of him in a single deep thrust. Luca shouts my name, clawing helplessly at the floor. His inner muscles spasm and clench around me, just like his throat did when he gagged. I try to ease out slowly to let him adjust, but he forces himself onto his knees and thrusts back towards me, taking me deep all over again.